Mecha battle starting from Gundam. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 470, Pure Operation, begins. At the Orb headquarters, Wong and a group of staff officers nervously looked at the battle maps of the Earth and the universe. At the same time, everyone in the headquarters held their breath and concentrated. No one dared to make any sound at this time. The first unit has arrived at the designated location. The enemy has not found it. The second unit has arrived at the designated location. The enemy has not found it. The third unit has arrived at the designated location. The enemy has not found it. Dozens of communications were received in succession, all of which were reports of safe arrival and no traces were found by the enemy. Then, when they saw that the green icons representing their own side on the battle map were all in place, everyone in the headquarters breathed a sigh of relief. The first phase was successful. The time was calibrated. It is now 0657 Earth time. In 3 minutes, the second phase will begin. Understood. And 3 minutes passed quickly under the tense waiting. Pure operation, start. Understood. And countless voices responded to Wong's orders, and their tones were all tense and expectant. It was a long-awaited war, with complex tactical arrangements, a large number of targets, and enemies that must be eliminated. This time, Orb and Plant joined forces, and even Dwayne Halberton from the East Asian Republic and the Atlantic Federation assisted. The target was all the secret bases, secret research institutes, subordinate organizations of logos, and the most important behind-the-scenes mastermind. The Emperor was the planner and commander-in-chief of this large-scale operation. In order to prevent leaks, the combat deployment and related intelligence were not sent to various forces until last night. Most of the soldiers involved in the operation only knew last night that there was a death merchant organization, like logos, in the world. All the contradictions and disputes were caused by a group of mice hiding in the shadows. Of course, the intelligence of the Scandinavian kingdom was temporarily concealed. After all, the intelligence of Festum was too horrifying, and ordinary people could not accept it at all. Therefore, in this combat plan, the Scandinavian kingdom was not listed as a target, but Yang Hui ordered Orb's large forces to secretly move to Europe. The beautiful name was to prevent the Eurasian Federation from interfering with pure operations. In fact, the Scandinavian kingdom was surrounded, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. Anyone who attempted to cross the encirclement was allowed to be directly eliminated. In the universe, the Sky Sword and the Minerva were moving side by side. All the special operations forces were present. Yang Hui, Setsuna, Lyle, Tiria, Kara, Aslan, and Cruz all attacked because their target was the headquarters of the most dangerous librarian. Commander-in-Chief, the time is up. Where's the target? Silent state. Attack, force attack. Understood. And the headquarters of the librarian was a space fortress transformed from a meteorite. It could be observed through optical cameras. What puzzled Baki Lulu was that the other party had no reaction even though they had entered the visual range of the optical camera, as if they didn't know they were coming. This was not normal. In this case, Baki Lulu suspected that it was a bait and trap left by the other party on purpose, but Yang Hui had already issued an order to force an attack, so Baki Lulu could only do it. Moreover, she was not afraid that this was a trap. After all, with Yang Hui's ability, what trap could not be broken by brute force? The Dawn Gundam took the lead, leading the Exa, Cherubim, D-Armor, Freedom Gundam, Justice Gundam and Providence Gundam straight to the enemy fortress. Speaking of Providence Gundam, the original Providence Gundam was cut into human stick by the Dawn Gundam, and was secretly recovered along with Cruz, and then repaired and strengthened by the Aurora Society. Not only were all the internal systems and materials replaced with new ones, but even the weapons were upgraded, with a pseudo-solar furnace installed, and the Dragoon system upgraded to the GN Dragoon. However, the disc on the back was removed, and the disc was shrunk and installed on both sides of the shoulders, carrying 4 large GN Dragoons, each carrying 9 beam cannons, and 4 small GN Dragoons, each carrying 2 beam cannons, and the large GN Dragoons can also converge the beam and use it as a beam sword that can be used for both slashing and stabbing. In addition, after the GN Dragoon detaches, the disc can generate a GN field and use it as a shield. In addition to the GN Dragoons on the two discs, the side skirts and the rear GN Dragoons were not left behind, so the Providence Gundam carried a total of 8 large and 14 small GN Dragoons, which can be called a firepower monster. This is also due to Cruz's excellent spatial recognition ability. No one else can control so many floating units except Yang Hui. The other armaments are relatively simple. The MA-M221 heavy beam rifle is changed to an ordinary beam rifle, and the MA-MV05A composite weapon shield system, with a large beam saber inside, Beam Gun X2, is retained, but the beam gun is changed to a beam submachine gun to facilitate large-scale battles. Finally, the 2MA-M02G, Super Scorpion Tiger, beam swords are stored on the outside of the thigh. It is worth mentioning that the Freedom Gundam and Justice Gundam have also been strengthened into the Strike Freedom Gundam and the Infinite Justice Gundam. The use of VPS armor, pseudo-solar furnace, and GN particles is not lacking. The GN Dragoon system of the Strike Freedom Gundam has increased to 12, each carrying only one beam cannon. The high-energy beam rifle has cancelled the combination mode, but has been changed to a mode where both guns can charge for artillery fire, or a high-speed sweeping mode. In addition to the same general transformation, the Infinite Justice Gundam has not changed much from the original Infinite Justice, except that the high-energy beam rifle in the hand has the same number of mode changes as the Strike Freedom Gundam, and the Destiny 01 has enhanced mobility and flexibility. There are also 3 machines, the Exa, the Cherubim, and the Devil Angel, which also carry corresponding GN floating units, such as the 6 GN floating swords of the Exa, the 8 sets of GN floating guns plus boxes of the Cherubim, and the 2 GN heavy guns plus mechanical claws of the Devil Angel. These are also the equipment they have tested in the Gundam world before, but because the final battle came too fast, they have not had time to complete familiarization and training, and now they are finally used on the battlefield for the first time. The following Minerva also ordered all MIS units to attack, including Gaia Gundam, Abyss Gundam and Chaos Gundam, with Mayu, Rei and Luna Maria as the pilots, as well as the Impulse Gundam and 6 Zaku Phantoms piloted by Shin from the same team. Originally, they were planning to join up with the Skyward Sword's Dawn Gundam and other machines and act together, but because the performance difference was too great, they simply could not keep up with the opponent's speed, and finally had to accept Bujalulu's suggestion to escort the 2 battleships. Yang Hui, who launched the charge, also realized that this was a trap, so he activated the transformer mode as soon as he entered the range. Stop moving forward, Skyward Sword, Minerva, coordinates S14 and G59, all guns fired. Chapter 471, Huge difference in combat power? Yes. Everyone didn't understand Yang Hui's intention, but with a long-standing tacit understanding and the quality of the soldiers on the battlefield, as long as it was an order from Yang Hui, there would be no hesitation and they would execute it. The Minerva was a little slow, but all the weapons of the Sky Sword were fired at the target coordinates specified by Yang Hui. Light beams, various missiles, and even the special Super Lohengrin positron city-breaking cannons were fired at the same time, covering the designated coordinates in the blink of an eye. The attack of the Minerva also reached the designated coordinates. The next second, 2 invisible objects like walls suddenly appeared in the empty space, and slowly revealed their shapes under the influence of fire and explosion. I saw that there were dozens of MAs named Euclid, and several large MAs named Zamzaza, at each coordinate. They all stood up and deployed Defender Pioneer, positron anti-beam shields. In front of the beam shields were densely packed tiny particles that were difficult to distinguish with the naked eye, blocking all the missiles. Behind the MA troops, there were dozens of Gundam MIS troops. Behind the MIS troops, there was a new type of battleship that had never been seen before. The radar reacted, and the database was compared. Euclid, 54, Zamzaza, 8, Gale Strike 10, Rainstorm Duel 16, Hailstorm 16, Nebula Thunder 20, Abyss Shield 16, Dagger 40, Unknown MIS 2, Unknown Battleship 2. The 6th report made Baki Lulu look solemn. Sure enough, they had prepared a trap, and the troops ambushing them were so large. Captain Baki Lulu, the enemy's forces far exceed ours. It is recommended to retreat temporarily. Baki Lulu felt difficult to deal with the ambush and preparation of the librarians, let alone Talia. At first, she didn't understand why Yang Hui suddenly stopped. She guessed that he must have discovered some traces, and then Yang Hui and other top trump cards of orb gathered together. She thought they were going to blow up the fish pond, but it turned out to be a fish pond, but this fish pond was a shark pond. With their current combat power, Talia chose to retreat without hesitation. This was simply impossible to fight. But what shocked her was that Baki Lulu actually refuted her suggestion. No, this operation is not just for us, but also for the Earth, the universe, and many other targets. If we retreat, the news will be leaked, and morale will inevitably suffer a great blow. Moreover, I don't think it's time to retreat now. But Talia was angry. In this situation, it's not necessary to retreat? What should we do? The Skyward Sword and the Minerva are getting closer. At this time, Yang Hui's voice sounded at the bridge of the two ships at the same time. The MIS unit of the Minerva is responsible for guarding the warship. Setsuna, Lyle, T-Iria, you are in charge of the left side. Cruz, Kara, Atherin, you are in charge of the right side, and the two unknown new machines are left to me. Understood. X and yes. Understood. At this time, even Jen was no longer willful at this time, because he and his teammates were already frightened by the formation of the librarians. Even if they were impulsive, they would not make a decision to die. The 4 Gundams and Zaku warriors of the BAL team surrounded the Minerva, and after the Skyward Sword got closer, they expanded the defense circle. Are you serious? This gap between the enemy and us. Jen complained in the communication channel. This number. Mr. Yang Hui is too impulsive, right? Even Mayu, who admired and respected Yang Hui the most, felt that Yang Hui's decision was unwise at this time. After all, the gap between the enemy and us was too big. In this situation, what should we do? Are we really waiting to die here? Luna Maria said worriedly. The same was true for the other team members. Although they did not dare to complain openly, they were also full of resentment and confusion towards Yang Hui. Although there were also a few veterans who survived the second battle of Yakandui, who had intuitively felt Yang Hui's strength, they could not help but think so. If it was just number, they would not be afraid, but the opponent not only had the number, but also all Gundams. Whether in Plant or the Earth Union, Gundam means elite and ace, and ordinary pilots cannot drive Gundam MIS. Follow the order. Mr. Yang Hui has never been an impulsive person, he must have his plans. Lay calm the emotions of the team members. He had never seen Yang Hui go all out, but he believed in Yang Hui and Cruz. At this time, the Sky Sword was already side by side with the Minerva, and the Dawn Gundam, Exa, Cherubim, the Angel, Strike Freedom Gundam, Infinite Justice Gundam and God's Will Gundam had already engaged the enemy. At the same time, it also made Jen and others understand what the world's strongest combat power is and what the gap in combat power is. Horizontal ellipsis. Exa rushed into the ground formation at the fastest speed, and without hesitation deployed the sword-shaped GN bit, like a fish swimming flexibly in the water, and shuttled back and forth with a machine body in the dense barrage like a spider web, and came to the front of the MA troops. Exa, start expelling the target. Clang, clang, clang. With a flashing of swords and shadows, or piercing, or cutting, the MA troops composed of Euclid and Zamzaza were torn open by a huge gap, and the absolute defense line erected in front of the MIS troops and warships collapsed. The shattering of the anti-beam shield meant that Cherubim and DS could show their power. GN burst, maximum output, fire. Boom. The next second after the anti-beam shield was torn apart, the orange energy torrent swept across, clearing a large area. No matter what Gundam or MA, in front of DS's triple-charged heavy artillery, there was only the fate of being swallowed up. GN burst, release completed. As the plain voice sounded, T-Iria's eyes flowed with colorful light, and a red light swept across her eyes. The 2 huge gun barrels on the shoulders of the Angel of Wisdom separated from the body, and kept firing continuously with the double guns in the hands. At the same time, following the footsteps of the Angel of Wisdom, it rushed into the enemy camp. Swish, an orange light cut through the universe, piercing through the 2 heavy rain dual Gundams that were sneaking behind the Angel of Wisdom, and strung together several enemy planes on the same line. SHH, they are all gorgeous, so I can't fall behind. Hello. Got it. Gun-shaped bit unfolds. Gun-shaped bit unfolds. Box-shaped bit unfolds. Box-shaped bit unfolds. The shields on both sides of the Angel of Wisdom became pieces and separated from the body one after another. At the same time, The gun-shaped bit in the center broke out and surrounded the Angel of Wisdom. The box-shaped bit formed a certain shape in front of the Angel of Wisdom, like an array. At the same time, in the cockpit of the Angel of Wisdom, thin lines connected the locked enemy aircraft logos like a spider web. Shoot when you see it. Chapter 472 The Only Chance for Reversal. Cherubim and gun bit fired at the same time, and orange beams fell into the enemy aircraft group like flowers scattered by the sky. Just the terrifying firepower coverage, Cherubim's random attack mode, is already comparable to the firepower of a fleet. But not only is the firepower fierce, but also under Lyle's precise lock, the beam seems to go around the Angel of Power and Angel of Devil, and even the fast-moving GN bit is not touched. Soon, Cherubim maintained high-speed shooting and high-speed movement, forming a stable triangle formation with Angel of Power and Angel of Devil, circling a certain origin clockwise, and expanding the formation at the same time, like an expanding circular saw, constantly strangling and crushing the librarian's troops. On the other hand, Kira and Aslan's tacit understanding is not inferior to Setsuna, Lyle and Tieria, but their tacit understanding with Cruz is not that high, especially Kira. His understanding of Cruz is basically learned from Mew and Aslan, and there is a gap between the two in their evaluation of Cruz. But this does not mean that their efficiency in destroying the enemy is lower than the other side. Cruz knows that instead of forcing themselves to work together on the battlefield, it is better to fight on their own. In this way, although they cannot take care of each other, they will not hold each other back at the same time, and there is no need to worry about Cruz, Kira and Aslan being in danger. After all, if Yang Hui and others had not appeared, they would be the strongest in the world. Aslan. The Infinite Justice Gundam held its shield in front of it and rushed towards the Euclid and Zamzaza troops. When it got close, it just connected the double swords at its waist, and the double-edged swords chopped horizontally and vertically, tearing a hole for the Strike Freedom Gundam. At the same time, Destiny 01 broke away from its back and was stepped on by Infinite Justice. The M02G, Super Lacerda, beam sword on the top and the M02S, Lacerda sequence, beam swords on both wings were fully deployed. With a shooting of two MA6J, high-energy power, beam cannons and high-energy beam rifles, it continued to move forward without stopping. The debris left behind floated neatly on both sides, leaving a clean path. At the same time, the Strike Freedom Gundam separated from the GN Dragoon and rushed into the absolute defense wall through the gap torn by the Infinite Justice Gundam. It immediately activated the multiple locking system, and the colorful cannons were unleashed, harvesting the enemy planes in front of it in a fan shape. Shoot! With a roar, the GN Dragoon's movements became strange and varied, shuttling back and forth between the wreckage and the barrage, turning corners and pouring down a heavy rain of beams, tearing the approaching MIS troops and the MA troops that were about to close into pieces. While the GN Dragoons were clearing the enemy planes, the Strike Freedom Gundam was not idle, charging its high-energy beam rifles, and the orange beams burst out, cutting the entire battlefield like two long thin lines. Mr. Cruz. Haha, thank you. In the cockpit of the Providence Gundam, Cruz smiled at the sound and immediately drove the Providence Gundam into the enemy camp. He didn't expect that Kira was still thinking about his existence during the battle. Sure enough, Kira Yamato. The GN Dragoons separated, and 8 large GN Dragoons simultaneously converged their beams, condensing into dazzling beam swords, leaving hideous holes on the bodies of the 8 MAs, and then fired at the same time, weaving dense beams into a large net, taking all the delicious prey into the center of the net. Boom 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 boom. The dazzling fireworks show began, and continued one after another, as if there was no end, quickly moving towards the rear of the enemy camp, announcing that this is our grand ceremony, and also your doomsday. Are you kidding me? The bar team guarding the Minerva and the Sky Sword were stunned, especially the new recruits, who had never seen what Orb's top ace looked like when he was fully armed. This is too amazing, isn't it? One machine is equivalent to a reorganized fleet, isn't it? Freedom. Justice, that's God's will. God's will turned out to be recovered by Orb, and looking at its current appearance, it's really a step up. And there are so many Dragoons, it should be Captain Cruz, right? I didn't expect he's still alive and has joined Orb. Really? The new recruits were confused and impressed, while the veterans were filled with emotion. On the one hand, they were impressed that the military power of Orb was really terrifyingly strong. Not to mention that every machine was equipped with a Dragoon system, or an autonomous combat unit similar to the Dragoon system, and except for the Infinite Justice Gundam, the number of equipment on each machine was terrifyingly large. When the Dragoon system was first developed, the entire Zaft army conducted a test on all pilots. There were very few people who could use the Dragoon system. The pilots who had done the test knew that it could not be used without spatial recognition ability, and spatial recognition ability could not be improved through training. The Bar Squad can be considered as the Ace Squad specially formed by Durandal, but in this Ace Squad, only Lei has the ability to identify space and can control autonomous combat units. Therefore, this is also the ironclad evidence that all of Orb's top aces have the ability to identify space. Moreover, seeing that the other party can control so many autonomous combat units at the same time and is very flexible, as if they are a small army, it is enough to prove how terrible Orb's ace pilots are. Not only are the individual strengths strong, but the team's cooperation is also very tacit. Lei reminded everyone not to be confused by the strong individual strength. No matter how strong the individual strength is, facing a number that is dozens of times their own, it is difficult to kill the enemy like they did. The reason why Setsuna and others can destroy the enemy so quickly is the most important cooperation between them. Especially the three machines of the Angel of Power, the Angel of Wisdom, and the Angel of Devil, who alternately cover and provide fire support. The three machines are like a whole, with no worries at all, so they can safely burst out all their attack power. Even though the cooperation between the Providence Gundam, the Strike Freedom Gundam, and the Infinite Justice Gundam was not so tacit, they all took care of each other's backs intentionally or unintentionally. Once an enemy plane attacked, a beam of light or a sword light would destroy it. The battle is over. Talia and Minerva came back to her senses from the shock and slumped in the captain's chair and said, "Huh?" Arthur Chuanin steadily performed traditional skills. "Don't you understand? Those Gundams can't stop Orb's trump card at all. It's only a matter of time before they are wiped out. The only possible reversal is the battle between Mr. Yang Hui and the two unknown Ms." As he said, everyone's attention was focused on the third battlefield. Talia was right. The two Mrs. that were different from the other machines must be the opponent's generals. They must be stronger than others, but they didn't feel that the balance of victory might be reversed, because if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473 Gina, Shadow, and Preya, Shadow. The third battlefield in the combat zone is the smallest battlefield and the easiest battlefield to fight. Yang Hui took the lead and stopped two unknown Mrs. that were about to support the friendly forces. Facing the orange waves of light, they could only dodge. Even if they wanted to get close to the Dawn Gundam, they would be cut into pieces by countless orange beams. Damn it! Yang Hui. You bastard. If you have the guts, have a fair fight. With a familiar incompetent rage, Yang Hui smiled contemptuously. Even if it's a copy, is it still so stupid? Gina. One of the two generals of the library staff was really a copy of Gina, but the machine he drove surprised Yang Hui a little, because it was a purple Astray Gundam, and it was a Phantom III. If it were the original historical trajectory, the parts of the Gundam Astray Purple were not recovered by law, but were obtained by the librarians in some way, and then transformed and upgraded to the illusion type. The focus of the design drawings and upgrade plans was the illusion type II that Yang Hui was facing now, but because Gina, Shadow, died in advance, the upgrade to illusion type 2 stopped the plan. Now not only is Gina, Shadow, still driving the Gundam Astray, but the illusion type II has also appeared in advance. However, thinking of the technological level of the librarians, Yang Hui was relieved. In terms of copycats, Yang Hui is really willing to call the librarians the strongest Gundam Seed world, and they can also be further improved on the basis of the original version. Isn't it enough to look at the extended body of the X series? Yang Hui. Don't compare me to that incompetent guy. He doesn't deserve it. Haha, to be honest, you are worse than Gina. At least he won't use such a stupid provocation. Yang Hui. Go to hell. It's a pity that you can't do it. Gina, calm down, you are no match for him alone. Seeing that the Astray Gundam illusion I was about to rush into the trap prepared by the Dawn Gundam, dozens of beams not only blew up it was approaching quietly from both sides, but also blocked the Astray Gundam illusion I's way and forced him back. I saw several white Dragoons being recovered one by a mobile suit that looked like the Providence Gundam with red and blue chests and white other parts. This was the Fubuki Providence Gundam, and it was also the product of the improvement and upgrade after the librarian stole the technology of the Providence Gundam. The position of the Dragoon system backpack was modified and moved to the right shoulder. 4 small barrels and an MV-05A composite armed shield with additional propulsion nozzles were installed on the left shoulder. 2 conical barrels were set on the waist, and the 12th attack terminal, the Dragoon Assault Backpack, was introduced. In this way, the Dragoon system was distributed throughout the body, making the layout of the body's energy supply system more rational, making the machine's mobility better than the Providence Gundam. Its pilot is the highest librarian of the library, a copy of Plirifili. Plirifili's original body, like Cruz and Ray, is a clone of Mu's father, Eldoflaka. According to the original trajectory, Plirifili should have stolen his original vehicle, the Warrior Gundam, and the technology of the Dragoon and escaped, and then met Law, became a nemesis with Kennard Pars, and finally influenced Kennard Pars at the cost of his own life. Shut up. Don't give me orders. Don't you want to defeat him? Tisk, I don't need your help. I can do it alone. You can't do it, only the 2 of us. Be careful. The Fubuki Providence Gundam and the Astray Gundam illusion III, which were gathered together, suddenly separated to the sides, and dozens of light beams swept across the place where the 2 machines were originally located like claws. Damn it. Yang Hui, you. Gina, Shadow, originally wanted to scold Yang Hui for not following martial ethics and attacking them while they were still talking, but the words were stuck in his throat when he was halfway through, because the Dawn Gundam was already close at hand, and the sharp blade shining with cold light almost filled the entire screen, piercing Gina, Shadow's soul through the screen in armor. At this time, the support of the Fubuki Providence Gundam arrived, and several light beams surrounded the Dawn Gundam from top to bottom, left to right, forcing him to control Bit to block the beams. Although he failed to force the Dawn Gundam back, he succeeded in stopping it for a second. That second gave Gina, Shadow, a chance to survive. He raised his 2-handed chainsword to block the physical sword of the Dawn Gundam, but the high-frequency vibration of the friction sparks carried the blade to cut into the intersection of the sharp blades little by little. It must be said that Gina, Shadow's combat quality is still good. When he found that the hand chainsword of the Astray Gundam illusion I was about to be destroyed, he immediately raised his foot to kick the Dawn Gundam, and the sharp blade of his leg swept like a chainsword. Haha, as expected, the technology tree is wrong. Yang Hui muttered, ignoring the threat of the attack. As soon as he thought about it, a thin orange line cut off the attacking sword, increasing the speed of the physical sword's downward pressure. What? Seeing that his attack was easily resolved by the opponent, Gina, Shadow, was horrified and angry, and his eyes revealed a strong unwillingness and hatred. Why? Why? Why would someone like you appear? Whether it was the original or the copy, they all had a strong hatred for Yang Hui, not because of what Yang Hui had done to them, but because they were jealous of Yang Hui. Especially the original. Yang Hui's excellence was proving his incompetence. He was better than him in everything, and could beat him to pulp in everything he did, which was completely opposite to his ideas and thoughts. At the beginning, he recognized, then became jealous, and finally turned into hatred. As a copy, Gina, Shadow, naturally inherited the original's memory and hatred. I still have to praise you guys for being able to crack the characteristics of GN particles so quickly and restore the communication capability. Yang Hui. If it weren't for you, Gina wouldn't have succeeded either, because his path was wrong from the beginning. Yang Hui. Goodbye. The main body couldn't easily send Gina off, so I can only make do with you. As soon as the words fell, Gina's Shadow hair stood on end, and a chill that was enough to freeze the soul enveloped him. He watched the Dawn Gundam's physical sword cut into the Astray Gundam illusion I's chainsword bit by bit, and then swish puff what? You. The Dawn Gundam's physical sword cut off the Astray Gundam illusion I's chainsword, but failed to cut off the Astray Gundam illusion II directly. Because Fubuki Divine Providence Gundam suddenly rushed to the Astray Gundam illusion II with a blast of bit, and pushed it away, exposing itself to the deadly cold light. The sharp blade cut the Fubuki Providence Gundam from the shoulder to the bottom, taking away not only the left half of its body, but also the left side of the body of April Shadow, in the cockpit. The cockpit was damaged, and the emergency safety gate was activated to seal the exposed cockpit, but even so, April Shadow could not survive. Ahem, gee, Gina. You bastard. Who asked you to save me? I said I don't need your help. Gina roared at April after retreating a distance with a Fubuki Providence Gundam. There were no tears, no sadness, only anger and resentment. He was not grateful for the other party's rescue, but felt that the other party had insulted him. Gee, nah, surrender, ahem, we can't beat him, you are my only friend, I don't want you. Puff. Chapter 474 Experience the Fear of Despair. It is estimated that April Shadow never thought that he would die at the hands of what he thought was his only friend. Before he finished speaking, the broken blade pierced into the cockpit of the Fubuki Providence Gundam, crushing April Shadow together with it. It's disgusting to be considered a friend by a coward like you. Gina, Shadow, cursed. Although the original librarians were a mysterious organization controlled by logos, the members and the copyists were not all bad people. The original copyists did not set so many prohibitions and personality tampering, and the copyists without prohibitions and tampering believed that they inherited the personality of the original body. For example, if there were no prohibitions and personality tampering, whether it was Malu, Shadow, Bakalulu, Shadow, or Mana, Shadow, Kigali, Shadow, would not accept the orders assigned to them by logos, and would even defect to the enemy. Isn't that the case in the original plot? For example, didn't Lily Savory and her sisters, and Kong Yun's copy NDE help the protagonists in the end? But all this changed after Gina, Shadow, was created. It was Gina, Shadow, who forced all the copyists to change their personalities according to his needs, and set many bans, making the new copyists completely reduced to parts and tools of war, and their personalities were very different from the original bodies, and they were extremely aggressive. The old generation of copyists could not set bans or change their personalities in mature brains, so after Gina, Shadow, was born, the library staff split into two factions from within. One faction was the conservatives who continued to follow April Shadow, and the other faction was the new faction led by Gina, Shadow. The situation of the two factions within the library staff was also like fire and water. Because of Gina, Shadow's tempering, the new generation of copyists had crazy attributes and had great dissatisfaction and resentment towards the free and moderate conservatives. However, Gina, Shadow, was not wrong in one thing. April Shadow was indeed a weak man like his original body. If he was a little more ruthless, he would not let Gina, Shadow, do whatever he wants in the organization. But he was also a gentle person. As a clone of Father Mew, his IQ was absolutely good. He knew that Gina, Shadow, didn't like him, but he always regarded Gina, Shadow, as his friend, hoping to warm him with his gentleness and let him give up madness and hatred. The result was the same as the original plot, and he died in the hands of his friend, who he thought he was, but the difference was that he didn't affect Gina, Shadow, in the end, and he didn't even know until his death that Gina, Shadow, had actually been manipulated by the people of logos when he was born, and there would be no change until his death. You killed your companions. The Dawnbreaker stayed not far from the Fubuki Providence Gundam and the Astray Gundam Illusion. He did not take advantage of the situation, but watched the show quietly. He had no mercy on the copyists. Although he promised Lily Savory to spare the conservative copyists as much as possible, he also told him about the special features of the machines they drove and how to persuade them to surrender. But he just tried his best. In a large-scale battle, who could pay attention to these situations? However, Gina's, Shadow, behavior still ignited Yang Hui's anger. Maybe it was because he judged others by himself. He himself was a person who valued his companions very much, but now, he saw Gina, Shadow, kill the companion who just saved his life. Everything happened too quickly, so he didn't react. The cockpit of the Fubuki Providence Gundam was pierced through, leaving Yang Hui no time to stop it. HMPH. I never considered him as a companion, he was just my stepping stone and a prop, and he also successfully completed the mission I assigned to him. Now that he is dead, I am the Supreme Librarian. As long as I kill you, I can take over the organization in its entirety and then rule the entire world. Ha 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 ha. Puchy what? Gina, Shadow, looked at his hands and feet that were cut off by the thin beam of light in disbelief. He had no reaction at all. He didn't even see what happened before his hands and feet were gone. Congratulations, Gina's counterfeit. At this time, the Dawn Gundam had already arrived in front of the remains of the Astray Gundam illusion, III. Under delicate control, several bits stuck to the Vulcan cannon on the head, only destroying the Vulcan cannon without affecting the main camera on the head. When was the last time you were angry? It seems. It was decades ago? Oh, I remember, it was the time when Yulin was injured. You. What are you talking about? What decades ago? Who is Yulin? Gina, Shadow, was shrouded in fear at this time, trembling all over, sweating profusely. Although he didn't understand what Yang Hui meant by decades ago, he didn't have the extra energy to think about it, because you don't need to know. As soon as the voice fell, the sharp sword was against the position of the cockpit door, piercing into it bit by bit. Wait? Yang Hui, listen to me, I know a lot of valuable information. By the way, we can join forces. You and I will join forces, and there will be no enemies in the world. How about it? Isn't it great? The friction between the armor and the sharp blade was getting closer and closer. Gina was completely panicked and began to beg for mercy in his special way. Not so good. The cold voice had no emotion. This was Yang Hui's cruelty to the enemy. In order to make Gina, Shadow, swallowed by fear and despair, he turned off the high-frequency vibration of the physical sword and pierced into the cockpit bit by bit with its sharpness. No. Yang Hui. Stop. No. The cockpit was so small that no matter how he hid, he could not avoid the sharp sword tip that was slowly piercing in. Gina could only watch in despair, watching the cold light getting closer and closer, and then piercing into his body bit by bit, and finally split his body in half. Is this revenge for you? After the physical sword completely penetrated the Astray Gundam illusion III, the Dawn Gundam drew out the physical sword, looked in the direction of the Fubuki Goodwill Gundam and murmured, well, maybe you don't need it either. The Dawn Gundam did not fly towards the library staff headquarters fortress, and it was unknown whether the fortress itself had any traps, but the two highest-ranking library staff were already dead, and the ambush troops hidden with the help of the new large-scale, Mirage system, were also killed in pieces, so even if there were traps, it didn't matter. Carrying the wreckage of the two machines, the Dawn Gundam returned to the center of the battlefield, threw the wreckage of the Fubuki Providence Gundam and the Astray Gundam illusion III into the air, then condensed a large amount of bits and set off a firework above his head, while opening a full-channel communication channel to connect everyone on the battlefield. Notify all librarians in the battle area that your highest librarian and highest combat commander have been killed by me. I demand that you surrender immediately, otherwise, I will kill you all. Chapter 475, Blood Boiling. As Yang Hui's full-channel broadcast ended, the battlefield paused for a moment, but only for a second. After a second, the life and death battle continued. Even the photocopy camp was in great chaos, and they began to attack each other, as if venting all the dissatisfaction that had been accumulated before, revenge for revenge, and grievance for grievance. Tisk, are they all lunatics created by Gina's counterfeit? Yang Hui murmured, and then immediately issued an order, all troops attack, annihilate the enemy. Understood. X and the Sky Sword and Minerva at the rear could not wait any longer, and directly drove to the battle areas on both sides at full power. There was also the BAL team. Although they were frightened at first, soon, their chests were filled with blood and impatience. As a soldier, no one could sit in the audience and watch such a fierce battle patiently. If it weren't for Yang Hui's Majesty and Talia who had been calming their emotions, they might have disobeyed orders and rushed into the battlefield. And now, they finally have the opportunity to perform, not just be spectators. It's finally our turn. Go ahead. Brother, don't be impulsive. Keep the formation. Really? 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 And Mayu lead a team to the left, Luna Maria and I lead a team to the right, all machines, keep the formation, don't get killed. Understood. X and even Lei, who is the most capable of keeping calm, was excited at this time. After giving the order, he took Luna Maria and several Zaku Phantoms directly to join the battlefield where the Strike Freedom Gundam, Infinite Justice Gundam and Providence Gundam were. That machine. Lei. Cruz also saw the Chaos Gundam joining, while clearing the enemy planes, He moved closer to the Chaos Gundam. No. Seeing the Providence Gundam approaching, Lei called out excitedly, but his back was exposed to the enemy. Swish! Two bright beams of light shot out from the GN Dragoon, brushing past the sides of the Chaos Gundam's head and piercing through the two enemy planes behind it. You are too careless, Lei. This is a battlefield, not a cafe for reminiscing. The Providence Gundam and Chaos Gundam stood back to back, and Cruz scolded Lei. Although Cruz was a lunatic, he was still very good to Lei. Maybe it was because they shared the same suffering, or maybe it was because of their same special identities that Cruz regarded Lei as his younger brother. I'm sorry, Lao. Lei apologized embarrassedly, but was immediately scolded harshly. Don't give yourself the opportunity to say sorry, Lei. I understand. Lei was subconsciously afraid, but also felt warm, because he found the feeling he once had, the sense of security that someone could rely on. Although they were communicating, the two did not stop their actions. The mobile weapons of Chaos Gundam were mixed in with the GN Dragoons, firing without scruples, and quickly destroying the surrounding enemy aircraft. Lunamaria and others found that the Providence Gundam and Chaos Gundam together were like hedgehogs, and even their companions did not dare to approach, so they drove their own Gundams towards the direction of the Strike Freedom Gundam and the Infinite Justice Gundam. But they didn't walk far before they found that it was not as easy as it looked. If it weren't for the Strike Freedom Gundam and the Infinite Justice Gundam supporting them from time to time, they would have suffered casualties. Damn it, did we encounter elites? Why are they so strong? Lunamaria complained unhappily. It's not that the enemy is too strong, it's that we are too weak. An old senior explained to Lunamaria helplessly that although Cruz and others killed the enemy as easily as cutting melons and vegetables, it was because they were all the world's top ace pilots and the machines they drove were also top-notch. And they could be considered elite, but their opponents were all Gundam-type Ms, and according to intelligence, all enemy pilots were clones created by a technology called photocopy, which could restore the abilities of the original body to a certain extent, and the pilots who could drive Gundam-type Ms must be copies of some elites and ace pilots, and they were definitely not easy to destroy. Well, my confidence is completely gone. Lunamaria said dejectedly. She was a top student who graduated from the military academy, ranked in the top 5 of the class, and was a Red Coat student upon graduation. She was assigned to an ace unit and drove the latest Abyss Gundam. She was proud enough, but now, it's gone. Confidence, pride, everything is gone. She was hit hard. Come on, Luna, take them as your goal and move forward. That's right, you are still young, unlike us old guys. Mo got it. Although they couldn't keep up with the pace of the Strike Freedom Gundam and the Infinite Justice Gundam, after all, they were all elites selected by Durandal. The experience of the veterans plus the burst of the newcomers, stabilizing the formation, and picking up leaks while protecting themselves, there is no problem. The battlefield on the other side is different. Setsuna, Lyle and Iria can all be said to be Lone Rangers, and at most the 3 of them cooperate with each other. Of course, this was at the beginning. The 3 of them now don't know how many excellent Ms pilots they have trained in Orb, and they have also led troops. Gradually, they have also learned to look at the overall situation and cooperate with their subordinates in battle. Isn't it? After the teams led by Impulse Gundam and Abyss Gundam joined the battlefield, Exa, Cherubim, and Devilkin changed their formations directly. The triangle formation no longer rotated, and the Impulse Gundam and other machines were included in the formation. Damn it! Why do his subordinates like to order people around like him? The Impulse Gundam's beam rifle fired continuously, breaking through the defense of a heavy rain dual Gundam and destroying it. Sheen complained unsatisfied. Isn't this natural? After the Abyss Gundam fired all single volleys and penetrated several daggers at the same time, it answered Sheen helplessly. They have higher ranks than us and are stronger than us. They are not Zaft soldiers. What's wrong with having a higher rank? What's so great about being strong? Brother, be careful. What? Sheen was careless and let a Nebula Thunder Gundam touch the back of the Impulse Gundam. The Disaster Sword was already unfolded, and the ferocious fangs were about to bite the Impulse Gundam, but an orange beam shot out and penetrated its abdomen. Ugh! The shockwave of the explosion made the Impulse Gundam retreat, and Sheen in the cockpit was also shaken and felt very uncomfortable. Haha, being strong is amazing. The GN bit returned to the Cherubim not far away, and Lyle's teasing sounded in the communication. What did you say? Sheen looked at the Cherubim indignantly. Kid, you still have a lot to learn, don't be so impulsive. Damn it. You are as annoying as that bastard. Shin cursed while driving the Impulse Gundam to destroy the enemy. I don't know if it was a bit too exciting, but at this time, Shin's eyes had lost their pupils and turned red. Chapter 476, Battle Situation in Various Places. In the Hawaiian Islands, the Orb Army assembled, and the aerospace fleet consisting of 3 reorganized sea fleets, 2 White Tiger-class battleships, and 1 Killen-class battleship carrier headed towards the Atlantic Federation's homeland. When the Orb Army assembled, the Atlantic Federation had already noticed something was wrong, and quickly summoned troops to organize a defense line, but, when they saw that the Orb Army did not care about their warnings at all and advanced steadily, the Atlantic Federation's defense line retreated again and again, and was finally pressed to the coastline, and the Orb Army stopped. Haha, have the Atlantic Federation's troops been so cowardly? On the bridge of the Killen class, Barry Ho folded his arms and sneered at the Atlantic Federation's troops. Even with his mentality, he couldn't help but complain about the Atlantic Federation's behavior. If they could launch the first attack when Orb first approached the first line of defense, he might have looked up to them. But now, the other side actually retreated again and again, and the Orb Army only needed to move forward a little bit to enter the Atlantic Federation's homeland. This behavior can be completely called fleeing without a fight. This doesn't fit the style of the Atlantic Federation. Yang Hui was originally a mispilot of the Atlantic Federation. He knew the Atlantic Federation very well. It was dirty and corrupt, but that was the top level. The soldiers at the grassroots level were still qualified. At least they would not be afraid to fight and retreat directly. It's hard to say. When the last war ended, the backbone of the Atlantic Federation seemed to be broken. Barry Ho spread his hands. He had always had a bad impression of the Atlantic Federation, especially this year. Orb became more and more powerful, and the status of the Atlantic Federation became lower and lower. This made the Atlantic Federation even more unbearable in Barry Ho's eyes. It's better to be careful. Although the order of the Chief of Staff is for us to delay the main force of the Atlantic Federation, and it is predicted that there will be no fight, we must also prevent the other side from jumping off the wall. Yang Hui reminded Barry Ho. Barry Ho and Yang Hui led the 1st Special Brigade and the main fleet to break into the border of the Atlantic Federation in a large-scale manner. The purpose was to delay time and pin the main force of the Atlantic Federation to the coastline. In this way, the Atlantic Federation will be empty inside, and the Special Operations Forces will have more opportunities to raid the secret bases and secret research institutes of Logos, and return safely after eliminating and destroying them. In other words, the 1st Special Forces led by Barry Ho and Yang Hui did not have much resistance to the order to contain the enemy. After all, they had gained enough credit during the 2nd Battle of Yang Hui. As long as they had enough qualifications, promotion was inevitable. Moreover, compared with the commanders of other troops, Barry Ho and Yang Hui were the most Buddhist. Due to their personalities, when other troops were competing for a good target, they voluntarily took on the least meritorious containment mission and quietly watched others compete. I am arrogant. Barry Ho was silent for a moment and realized his mistake. As a martial arts master, he should not underestimate the enemy, but because of his growth in the army and his experience in the war, he became a little arrogant. You are the captain, Lieutenant Colonel Ho. It's a blessing to have you as the vice captain, Major Kelly. Haha, I hope the other troops will succeed in the battle. It will definitely succeed. Lieutenant Colonel, the enemy is in chaos. At this time, the captain of the Kirin class reported to Barry Ho. Are there any attacks? Not yet. All personnel, 1st level combat configuration, MIS troops attack in an orderly manner, but do not launch an attack. Understood. After giving the order, Barry Ho and Yang Hui also went to the hangar, boarded their respective machines and attacked, came to the front of the fleet, and looked at the Atlantic Federation gradually falling into chaos. Let's start. In the deep mountains and old forests inside the Atlantic Federation, Raina Emilia's Destruction Storm Gundam, Edward Harrison's Sword War Disaster Gundam, and several all-black M1 heretics slowly revealed their figures in a place where there was nothing. The additional parts on the back fell off with a click and fell to the ground, startling countless birds, and then charged towards the gate of the base that was difficult for satellites to find. Enemy attack. No. The communication is paralyzed. Damn it. It's those orange particles. Damn orb. Fight back quickly. The electronic equipment was paralyzed by the influence of GN particles, and the garrison of the base became blind and deaf in an instant. Under the firepower coverage of the destroyer Gundam and the charge of the Sword War Disaster Gundam, chaos, fear, and despair began to spread. Boom 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 boom. Instructor. Be gentle. I was almost affected. Edward Harrison complained to Rena Emilia. The firepower coverage of the destroyer Gundam was too fierce, causing him, a berserker who rushed into the enemy camp and slashed wildly, to be blown awake. I didn't cover the area you were in. Rena Emilia responded unhappily. She knew that Edward Harrison was just upset that she had taken away many of the prey he had set his sights on. Also, call me Major. Yes, Major Emilia. While chatting, the Sword War Disaster Gundam used its proud ship-slashing sword to cut off several hastily attacking, slaughtered daggers. The Destruction Storm Gundam has been in a high-burst state, and its firepower coverage has never stopped. The base's defense facilities are as clean as if they were washed by a flood. Now, break in. Understood. XN Sword War Disaster Gundam stopped in front of the steel gate of the base, raised his two swords high, crossed them, and danced quickly, leaving many burning sword marks on the steel gate. Soon, the steel gate was overwhelmed and turned into fragments scattered all over the ground. The M1 heretics following the Sword War Disaster Gundam rushed in, and the Marines also left the troop transport armored vehicle and broke in several teams. For a moment, the base was filled with sirens, gunshots, curses, screams, etc., and the Orb secret forces, as intruders, all turned into silent death gods, without saying anything, just coldly harvesting lives wherever they went. Is this okay? Edward Harrison did not leave the Sword War Disaster Gundam, guarding the door in case of emergency. This is the order of the Chief of Staff. The Destruction Storm Gundam stood beside the Sword War Disaster Gundam, keeping control of all situations at all times. But, Edward, I never taught you to disobey orders. Rena Emilia knew what Edward Harrison wanted to say. Even she felt a little disgusted when she first received the combat mission. According to the intelligence, this is one of the combat bases of Phantom Pain, and the people here are all die-hard fans of Logos. Even if they are not killed, there is no way to save them. Well, I understand. Edward Harrison didn't say anything else. He was just disgusted by this kind of massacre, which did not mean that he would disobey orders, and he himself hated the culprit who invaded his hometown, Logos. Chapter 477, Battle Situation in Various Places, Part 2. It is hard to imagine that there is a large-scale base in the deep trenches on the seabed, full of steel and technological atmosphere. On the reef not far from the base, dozens of Ms carefully hide their bodies. Major, we can't go any further, otherwise we will be discovered. Is it the limit of distance? Looking at the secret base that is still quite a distance away, Jane Houston frowned slightly, but soon thought of the combat plan provided by the Emperor: contact the surface fleet to carry out vertical anti-submarine strikes, and the Ms troops will start the pseudo-solar furnace at the same time, and approach with the support of the surface fleet. Understood. Soon, the surface fleet received the news, and countless anti-submarine missiles were launched, then plunged vertically into the water, splashing countless water, and then fell vertically at a very fast speed, landing on the top of the base. Assault. Start GN particle dispersion. Understood. The moment the XN order was issued, countless underwater specialized M1 heretics appeared from the shadows, accompanied by the orange starlight particles, and the entire sea was dyed with the color of life. When the secret base was attacked by anti-submarine weapons, it knew that it had been attacked by the enemy, but maybe it was because it had been too safe all along. The nerves that should have been tense were paralyzed, resulting in the base's defensive weapons not being activated in the first time, giving the underwater Ms an opportunity. Torpedo launch. Destroy the base's defensive weapons. Understood. XN as the order was issued, countless torpedoes surrounded the base from all directions. Before the defensive weapons had time to open their muzzles, they were hit by torpedoes and then blown to pieces. Hit rate? The highly dense torpedo coverage did not need a hit rate at all. The outer circle of the base was wrapped, and the steam and bubbles produced by the explosion formed a complete circle. Quick! Get closer, don't give them a chance to recover. Block all exits, and anyone who escapes will be shot directly. Jane Houston ordered. Understood. XN in the water. The speed of the specialized new M1 heretics in the water was still very fast. Before the steam and bubbles completely dissipated, they had already approached the base. At this time, the people in the base also stabilized and started to launch various defense measures to defend against the sudden attack of the underwater troops, but it was too late. When the base's defense system was approached by the MIS, it was destroyed. The large sonic cannon was penetrated by the trident before it could even fire a shot, and the torpedo launch port was hit in advance and caused a sympathetic explosion. What surprised Jane Houston was that this base was actually equipped with an underwater MIS unit that was not on the intelligence. However, it was just an accident, because the opponent's underwater MIS was modified with dagger, and the modification strength was extremely low. The mobility, firepower, defense, were all beaten by the underwater specialized M1 heretics, so the scattered underwater dagger were eliminated as soon as they appeared, and some even did not have time to attack and were directly blocked at the launch port. Major, the main port has been suppressed. Notify the landing troops in the rear to come over. Understood. The periphery of the base has been completely suppressed. The submarine force led by Jane Houston is waiting for the submarines transporting the Marines to arrive easily. After all, this base only has a port and no pipeline-type escape exits have been built. Now that the base has been completely surrounded, anyone, ship, or escape pod who wants to leave can be seen at a glance and then directly destroyed. In the desert of the Middle East, looking down from a high altitude, you can see the flames constantly flashing. Zooming in, you can see a white Zaku Phantom holding a double-edged beam axe and opening up in the MIS group. There is also a black Zaku Warrior and a blue Zaku Warrior in the back to provide it with important firepower support. It is also because the two machines in the back have eliminated all worries for the Zaku Phantom that he can harvest leaks so easily. Hey, Isaac, don't rush so hard, the troops in the back can't keep up. Diego complained unhappily. You're so long-winded. I'm the captain now. Yeah, Diego smiled bitterly and shook his head. Isaac's Sundeer disease is really a terminal cancer, which cannot be cured. Because after Diego reminded him, Isaac had slowed down his advance and retreated without a trace to join the troops that fell behind. He knew that he was too excited for a while, but he just wouldn't admit it. As the saying goes, the body is more honest than the mouth. You are worthy of being the captain, awesome. The blue Zaku Warrior unfolded the electromagnetic cannon folded at his waist and the beam cannons on his shoulders, and after destroying several enemy planes at the same time, he complimented, ahem. Isaac's old face turned red, and he continued to beat Sundeer. This level is natural, shy, don't fall behind. Understood. Yeah, it's really worrying. Diego smiled bitterly for the second time. His captain is at Sundeer, and the little fangirl is a bit of a brainless fan. His work as the head of the family is getting harder and harder. But what Isaac said is not wrong. If it's this level. Before he finished speaking, the beam cannon roared and swept across. Several slaughter daggers were cut in half and fell to the ground, exploding with countless sparks. It's really natural. Because Isaac slowed down the pace, the follow-up troops followed up and quickly suppressed the secret base. This is. After confirming that there was no danger, Isaac, Diego and Shy also got off the plane and entered the base, and saw a horrifying scene. It's too much? As a girl, Shy covered her mouth and exclaimed. The pupils of her eyes were trembling. There were countless culture tanks inside the base, and each culture tank was soaked with a corpse. The appearance of these corpses was over 10 years old. There were newly formed fetuses and children of 4 or 5 years old. But without exception, they were all deformed, and no corpse was in a normal shape. These bastards. Isaac clenched his fists as he watched this scene, and his nails pierced the skin and pinched into the flesh. Sure enough, this group of people, they all deserve to die. Diego said with deep disgust. At the beginning, the instructions given by the Emperor to them were to completely eliminate them and leave no survivors. They all felt a little disgusted with this order, but now, it seems that they were too naive. This kind of scene, anyone with a little conscience will feel that the researchers in this base cannot be treated as human beings, but as beasts. Captain, the blasting work at the core of the base has been completed. Are there any survivors? Isaac asked. Even if there was a glimmer of hope, he hoped that even a child who was captured for experiments could be noticed by the goddess of luck. 35 children have been rescued and sent outside the base, but their physical and mental state is not very good. Send them back to the Gibraltar base, and report to Commander-in-Chief Noriega at the same time. If necessary, Ask Orb for medical assistance. Understood. Let's go, Diego, Shy. We will go directly to the final coordinates. These people must be killed without leaving a single one. Yes. X2. Chapter 478, Battle Situation in Various Places, Part 3. In the universe, at the other end of the universe where the librarians were, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fleets of the Orb Space Army attacked in full force. Mina personally commanded the battle on the Kirin. The ace players who accompanied them included Sven Karl Ban, Emilio Broderick, Luo, Kong Yun, Lily Savary and her sisters. This time, the entire Orb Space Army was dispatched. The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fleets were the first 3 space fleets formed by the Orb Space Army. Their personnel configuration, combat effectiveness, and equipment priority were better than those of the subsequent fleets, not to mention that all the aces of the Space Army came, and there were also 2 strong reinforcements, Luo and Kong Yun. After being captured, Sven Karl Ban, Emilio Broderick, Lily Savary and her sisters were immediately sent to the Heavenly Pillar, and then Mina detained them directly, under the pretext that the Space Army lacks top combat power and needs to be supplemented. In fact, this is indeed the case. The Earth Army has ace pilots such as Mew, Barry Ho, Jang Kelly, Edward Harrison, Morgan Shuberry, Rena Amelia, and Jane Houston, as well as the 1st and 2nd Special Ms. squadrons as top combat power. What about the Space Army? Except for Mina herself, there is nothing. So Yang Hui lets Sven and other surrendered people stay in the Space Army. As for how to subdue them, Yang Hui is not worried at all. With Mina's means, it is not too easy to subdue these people. In terms of personal strength, Mina is not weak either. With the enhanced and modified Stray Gundam Purple machine, it is absolutely an ace strength. Really? Does Yang Hui always make such a big fuss? Just like the saying of the East Asian Republic, what is it called? Luo scratched his hair, trying to recall the saying he had heard. If you don't make a sound, you will be shocked. Kong Yun calmly helped Luo to add. That's right. That's the saying. Well, I'm curious, why did you come? Kong Yun asked Luo. He was a mercenary. As long as Yang Hui could afford the price and did not touch his bottom line, he would accept the commission issued by Yang Hui. But Luo was different. Luo was now a complete anti-war faction. You should know that this action could accidentally trigger another world war. Even if Luo was not on the opposite side of Yang Hui, he should not participate. How should I put it? You also heard what Yang Hui said, right? That thing. Suddenly, Luo's voice and tone became serious and low. Yes. So I came. I see, you are worthy of me. Did Setsuna always say that? Cut off the root of distortion. Yes. You actually trust Yang Hui so much? What if he is lying to you? At this time, Mina's Stray Gundam Purple came to the side of the red and blue machines and asked Luo. He won't lie to me. Even if Yang Hui is using me, he will use an open conspiracy to let me know everything and let me be used by him willingly. At this point, Luo was depressed. He didn't know how many times he had been used by Yang Hui, and he was indeed willing to be used by him. That's right, Yang Hui is a monster. Kong Yun commented. Haha, monster? It's a very appropriate name, a monster that can see into people's hearts and human nature. During the chat, the fleet was getting closer and closer to the target space. The purple, red, and blue Stray Gundams were the leaders, and they were the strongest side of the fleet and the MIS unit. At this time, the purple, red, and blue machines have been upgraded. Not to mention the installation of the pseudo-solar furnace and supporting systems, the blue and red machines have completed the GN particle version of the D-type backpack and the GN particle version of the Red Dragon backpack in advance, and the purple machine is developing in the direction of the original golden machine Amaterasu, with a Yotagashi backpack wing, the outer armor like the King Knight, shining transmitter, the replacement of the unrealistic metal ribbon, and the chainsword named Dajikari, purple version of Amaterasu. Following behind them are Sven Karl Ban's Black Strike Gundam, pseudo-solar furnace version, Emilio Broderick's True Red Aegis Gundam, pseudo-solar furnace version, Lily Savary and the Sisters Nebula Thunder Gundam, pseudo-solar furnace version, and then the AM-1 Heretic Force. Lord Longed, we have arrived at the target space, but no target has been found. Looking at the unobstructed universe, Mina frowned and asked, where's the locator given by the intelligence department? It is operating normally, but there is nothing at the positioning coordinates. All gun ports are open, lock the positioning coordinates, and fire coverage is within a kilometer around the coordinates. The locator is operating normally, but there is nothing at the positioning coordinates. There are only two possibilities. First, the locator was discovered and abandoned. Second, the opponent hid himself. For the sake of caution, whether it is the first or the second situation, direct artillery fire will be used to wash the ground. Even if there is an ambush, it will be hit. Understood. The rear defense fleet all showed their ferocious fangs, countless gun muzzles began to charge, and the orange light continued to shine. The next second, thick beams formed a torrent of energy that covered the entire target, and a rain of missiles followed one after another. Countless dazzling fireworks bloomed, filling the universe with brilliant colors. Sure enough, the gorgeous fireworks show ended, and the empty place slowly revealed its true appearance. Under the colorful protective shield was a huge space fortress. Around the space fortress were densely distributed various MIs, including the Phantom Pain type of the X series, such as the Black Strike Gundam and the True Red Aegis Gundam, as well as the Librarian type of the X series such as the Wind Strike Gundam and the Heavy Rain Dual Gundam, and the various improved types of mass-produced machines such as the Dagger, the Xeon, and the M1 Astray. In the back were various battleships such as the Nazca class, the Agamemnon class, the Archangel class, and the Garudi class. Oh my god. There are so many enemies hiding there. Luo was shocked when he saw the enemies line up. As expected, Kong Yun was very calm. The Orb Space Army was so ostentatious that the enemy should have discovered their intentions long ago, and it was normal to prepare corresponding combat forces. Mina laughed crazily in the cockpit. Facing such an enemy, she was not worried at all. Instead, she was excited and excited. Gentlemen, since the establishment of the Space Army, we have not been able to fight a decent battle. It must be very frustrating to see our compatriots on Earth constantly making meritorious contributions. Yes, and now is the opportunity. Let our compatriots on Earth see how powerful our Space Army is. We will annihilate all the enemies without leaving a single one alive. Understood. XN. Chapter 479, Battle Situation in Various Places, Part 4. The moment the Orb fleet opened fire, the war was declared to have begun. The warships fired back and forth, and the MIS troops were entangled in chaos. Wow! How dangerous. Several stray bullets fell on the GN field of the Astray Gundam Red, leaving ripples. But the pseudo-solar furnace and GN particles that Yang Hui tinkered with are really amazing. As soon as the voice fell, the Astray Gundam Red pulled out the Red Dragon backpack with its backhand, unfolded it into a mechanical longbow, pulled the bowstring, and GN particles condensed in the middle. In the cockpit, the screen in front of Luo had dozens of red enemy logos locked. Go. Release the bowstring, the beam shot out, and there was no enemy plane on the way forward, but just when the enemy thought that the Astray Gundam Red was just a paper tiger, the thick beam arrows suddenly split, and dozens of thin beam arrows penetrated all the locked targets. Awesome. Luo boasted happily. Beep, beep, beep. Oh. At this moment, a Nebula Thunder Gundam in stealth mode touched the back of the Red Gundam Astray. When the alarm sounded, the Red Gundam didn't even have time to turn around. Swish, a flash of sword light passed by, and two sword-type GN Dragoons shining with cold light left a cross-shaped scar on the body of the Nebula Thunder Gundam, and then exploded. You are careless. The blue and red machines were back to back, and Kong Yun scolded mercilessly. Don't you still have you? Luo still had a smile on his face, and he trusted Kong Yun very much. Kong Yun was silent, but he was a typical representative of a ruthless person who doesn't talk much. He let go of the sword-type GN Dragoon with both hands, and danced with other GN Dragoons on the battlefield. Although beautiful and elegant, they were deadly hell butterflies. Every time they flapped their thin wings, they would take away a living life. Hush, it's true. The red machine was not to be outdone. The mechanical longbow was used again, and after shooting down dozens of enemy planes, it folded the mechanical longbow, unsheathed the Kikachimanji and Katetsu on its waist, and cut two enemy planes in half with a silky stroke. The red machine is not just for show. The purple chain sword of the Gundam Astray was swung like a long whip, and several approaching enemy planes were cut into pieces. At the same time, the glorious transmitter condensed GN particles on the ring above its head, and the high-speed rotating beam disc continued to cut through the space. If it weren't for the fact that there was no air in the universe, the sizzling noise would have hurt people's eardrums. You are not qualified to dance with me. The cold voice fell, and the beam disc shot out, following the strange arc, full of the breath of death, but with elegance, like a noble princess stepping on an elegant and beautiful dance. The purple machine did not bravely destroy the enemy planes like the others, but stayed at the core of the battlefield, observing the direction of the entire battle. Too slow. In Mina's eyes, except for a few trump cards, the MIS troops fought back and forth with the enemy, and they could not defeat the opponent for a while. The artillery battle between the warships was dominated by the Orb Army. After all, the GN position was still very powerful. Our artillery fire on the enemy ships was a violent explosion and fire, while the enemy ship's artillery fire could only leave ripples on the GN position. The huge advantage brought by the gap in technology allowed the Orb Army to lock in the victory in advance, but Mina was not very satisfied. In her opinion, this was the first battle of the Orb Space Army. If they wanted to fight, they had to achieve a shocking record, rather than waiting for the other side to collapse like two millstones rubbing against each other. Amagi. Lord Lund. Kirin, activate, Lohengrin, target, my machine. Lord Lund. This. Charge, Glory Bearer, and tear through the enemy formation in one breath. But, as the captain of the Kirin, Amagi really didn't dare to accept Mina's order. He knew the technology of Glory Bearer and the performance of the purple Astray Gundam, but using a cannon to shoot at his direct superior, damn it. Question mark. No buts, execute immediately. Got it. Understood. Damn it, so be it. Mina's tone was already very stern. If he didn't do it, someone would immediately replace him, and then he would continue to execute Mina's orders. The two hatches of the Killen opened, and the two oversight, Lohengrin, positron city braking cannons revealed their dark muzzles, shining brightly, storing photons, and then roaring. Under the blessing of GN particles, the energy torrent of blue, white and red filled the orange of life, and then bombarded the back of the purple machine. The energy torrent that should have swallowed the purple machine strangely stopped behind the purple machine. Two translucent sails filled with flowing light were seen open behind the purple machine. The roar of the positron city braking cannon bombarded the light sails, turning into strands of pure energy that were absorbed. The light sails were shining more and more dazzling, and the purple machine was also shining more and more brilliant, as if a god had descended to Earth and was shining. Everyone, get out of the way. Skyship. The Orb MIS troops immediately abandoned their opponents and moved away from the front of the Astray Gundam Purple. The next second, the Astray Gundam Purple disappeared and turned into a golden giant sword, cutting the chaotic battlefield in half with one stroke. All obstacles on the road were shattered by the golden blade and finally annihilated by the majestic energy. Return. Mina's target was not only the MIS troops fighting each other, but also the enemy fleet in the rear. Seeing the golden purple machine burst out, the captain of the enemy ship immediately issued an order to evade, but he only had time to say the first word before the golden purple machine appeared in front of them, and then his eyes were blinded in an instant, and he lost all consciousness in the next second, because he and the people on the battleship turned into dust in space. 1, 2, 3. The brilliant purple machine did not stop, twisting back and forth at a terrible angle. After destroying countless battleships, it slowly slowed down and finally returned to the main formation and stopped. But there was no more movement, because Mina had fainted at this time, and there was even bright red blood on the corner of her mouth. This woman, isn't she too crazy? The Ace Astray Gundam Red, Blue, Black Strike Gundam and other aces immediately returned to escort the Astray Gundam Purple back to the Kirin. With the acceleration just now, even if the purple machine had undergone countless anti-buffer treatments, Mina must have had her internal organs dislocated. If she is not sent back for treatment quickly, she may die in the cockpit. But she opened up the situation. Kong Yun said. Everyone in the Orb Army also knew that although Mina used a powerful move that hurt the enemy by 1,000 and hurt herself by 1,000, causing the fleet to lose its commander-in-chief, but the military quality of the Orb Army is not comparable to that of ordinary armies, especially when Mina knew that her use of Heavenly Ship would likely cause the command system to be paralyzed. She had already made preparations. The Orb Space Army has always abided by a rule that once a commander is lost, the next level officer will automatically take over. In addition, Mina risked her life to open up the situation and tip the scales of victory. Everyone in the Orb fleet was filled with enthusiasm, thinking that Mina's efforts must not be wasted. Rampage them. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 480, Heading to the Decisive Battle. The formation was completely torn apart, and the fleet was almost completely destroyed. The result of destruction was already a fait accompli, and, just as Amaji ordered, ravage. Yes, ravage. One side was in chaos, the other side was in order, one side had low morale, the other side was full of vigor. Under Mina's stimulation, all the orb soldiers turned into wolves, howling, and rushed into the enemy formation that had turned into bleeding sheep, feasting on them, tearing and gnawing at the docile lambs. Quick, quick, quick. Don't let them go. For Lord Lund. For Orb. The fortress port has been suppressed. Shuttles set off. Capture the fortress. Is that ship turning around? Don't let them get away. The battle has come to an end. The Astray Red and Astray Blue stayed outside the fortress, looking at the Orb space army that had turned into a wolf pack, feeling deeply moved. Damn it. The enemy has clearly lost their will to fight. Luo looked at the scene in front of him with a sad expression. It was not an exaggeration to call it a massacre. But you can't stop it. Kong Yun replied calmly. I know, that's why it's hateful. Luo was scolding no one else. He would not scold others. He was only scolding himself for his inability. If he could decide the battle situation before Mina aroused everyone's blood, they would not be so bloodthirsty. Similarly, he was still scolding himself for not being able to stop this sad scene in front of him. It's really scary. Kong Yun always felt that Orb was a scary country. It used to be a sleeping lion. After Yang Hui came to power, this lion woke up and stepped on people's heads, standing on the top of the world. Now, if he thought that Orb was powerful because of Yang Hui, then now, he felt that everyone in Orb was scary. For example, Mina, for this victory, for the glory of the space army, for her own pride, she was willing to sacrifice her life. Another example is that the others who were so angry about killing that after the commander fainted, the first thing they did was not chaos, but an explosion. Alice, what will this world become? Luo sighed and turned to look at the blue planet behind him. It will become better. Kong Yun answered without hesitation. Better. That's right, that guy has been working in this direction, but I don't like the way. Luo smiled with relief. He did not like Yang Hui's radical approach many times, but he knew very well what direction Yang Hui had been working towards. All he did was for the long-term stability of the world. Moreover, according to the information provided by Yang Hui, these people really deserve to die. The suppression of the fortress is almost complete. Return to the ship, and we will rush to the next location soon. Kong Yun reminded Luo, and his face was full of solemnity. Yet, Luo had the same expression. The information given to them was not detailed, but just knowing a little was enough for them to be 200% alert to deal with it. I am not sure I will survive this battle. Yang Hui told everyone who needed to go to the final battlefield. The space domain where the librarian's headquarters was located also had no survivors. After occupying the librarian's headquarters fortress, Yang Hui and others also knew that they had not completely abandoned the agreement with Lily Savary. It turned out that at the beginning of the war, the factional struggle among the librarians ended with a complete victory for the new faction. Because of the gentle character of Prerifili, all the members of the conservative faction were captured and were in a semi-abandoned state. Even the last destructive action that sent Lily Savary and 11 sisters to harass Julius 7 was also sent as pawns, including all the members of the action were members of the conservative faction. Those who were killed, and those who came back alive were all captured. If it weren't for the fact that Prerifili was the highest librarian designated by the higher-ups, Gina, Shadow, would not have been able to completely break off with the higher-ups, and there would be no conservative faction within the librarians. Therefore, all those who ambushed the Sky Sword and Minerva outside were new generation copyists, and the old generation copyists who were still alive were locked up in the fortress. Originally, Gina, Shadow, planned to lure Yang Hui into the headquarters fortress, and then self-destruct the fortress to kill everyone. However, Gina, Shadow's ambush was discovered at the beginning, and Yang Hui and his party had never entered the fortress. Then the battle was one-sided, and they won the victory with overwhelming force. Gina, Shadow's sinister conspiracy was naturally broken without any warning. Yang Hui, what should we do here? Baki Lulu asked. Destroy it. Orb has enough fortresses, and Mina should be able to get a fortress, and we don't have enough manpower to take over. Cruz suggested. After all, there were only the Sky Sword and Minerva on this battlefield. The Sky Sword was going to land on the Earth immediately and go to the Kingdom of Scandinavia. Not only was the Minerva not from Orb, but there were not so many people on one ship. Set the self-destruction program. Some things, it's better to let them dissipate with the wind. Yang Hui agreed with Cruz's suggestion. The main reason was time. They had no time to waste. Now, whether it was the Earth or the universe, it could be said that it was blossoming in all directions. The major bases of Logos were attacked at the same time, and all the troops sent were elite troops. They were definitely destroyed. And with such a big fuss, Orfdovia and others would definitely receive the news, so they must immediately land on the Earth, destroy the Kingdom of Scandinavia, and eliminate Festum, and not give them any chance. Understood. I will immediately contact the Marines to set the self-destruction program. Then these people. Not only the problem of the fortress, but also the rescued copyists of the conservatives need to be dealt with, and because of their identities, it is impossible to take them to carry out the next operation. Leave it to the Minerva. Let them send all the people to Heaven's Pillar. Minerva? Can they trust it? Baki Lulu said worriedly. You don't need to trust them. At this time, Cruz added, they dare not think crookedly. Now all the plans have entered the final step. If we win, they will not turn against us for these photocopies. If we lose, we will not lose. Yang Hui said seriously. He knew Cruz's subtext. If they lost, all the fights would be in vain. They only need to wait for the arrival of Festum's army, the destruction of the world, and the extinction of mankind. But Yang Hui would never allow this. This battle can only be won, not lost. Hearing this, Cruz and Baki Lulu smiled. That's right, they can't lose this battle, and they can't afford to lose. Yang Hui's declaration dispelled all their worries and gave them the courage to move forward. Where are those people? Have they been dealt with? Yang Hui asked Cruz again. Not yet. Beep beep beep. At this time, Cruz's pad rang. He took it out and saw the message, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Don't worry, none of them escaped. Leave it to the East Asian Republic and Halberdan. This is the content of the deal. I have already given the order. Get ready to set off to the final battle site. Understood. After XN handed over all the old-school copyists to the Minerva, the Sky Sword separated from the Minerva. Yang Hui did not intend to let the Minerva participate in this battle. Yang Hui did not think that Jen and others were qualified to participate in the next battle with their current abilities. If they have potential that has not been developed, then they should stay behind and wait until their potential is fully developed and they become stronger, and then consider joining this level of battle. Damn, that bastard, what qualifications does he have to make decisions for us? Looking through the window at the Sky Sword that was getting farther and farther away, Zhen cursed. Really, stop talking. Sir Yang Hui is doing this for our own good. That's right, brother. Sir Yang Hui said that in the next battle, he didn't keep me alive until the end, so we are just too weak. After these words came out, everyone fell silent. They knew this was the truth, but they were frustrated and unwilling. This battle made them, as elites, clearly realize how weak they were. Damn it. This guy must be alive. Then let me punch him. Chapter 481, Gathering of Heroes. Outside the Kingdom of Scandinavia, Orb's army was no longer hiding, and surrounded the entire country openly. At the moment the battle began, Wang Liumi had already held a press conference to announce to the world that behind the Atlantic Federation, behind Blue Cosmos, there was the figure of the death merchant, Logos. They relied on provoking wars to gain various benefits for themselves, and behind Logos, it was Scandinavia that was manipulating, so the root cause of the world's distortion was the Kingdom of Scandinavia. At the same time as the announcement, countless evidence was also announced, otherwise people all over the world would not believe it. Logos, fortunately, the Kingdom of Scandinavia still has a good reputation in the international community. It does not fight or compete, has no ambition, and maintains good diplomatic relations with many countries. Even if it follows the lead of the Atlantic Federation on the surface, it has not caused dissatisfaction from others. Not only is the Kingdom of Scandinavia too weak on the surface, it has also portrayed itself as a tragic character who has to obey because of helplessness. And now, the ironclad facts have mercilessly torn off the false mask of the Kingdom of Scandinavia, revealing its bloody true face. It's not really its true face, at least the intelligence of Festum has not been made public. But this is enough to explain why Orb suddenly launched large-scale combat operations around the world and why it sent a large army to besiege the small country of the Kingdom of Scandinavia. Similarly, the East Asian Republic and Dwayne Halberton's faction also held a press conference immediately afterwards, announcing all the core members of logos that they had obtained, and publicly tried them. This also pushed public opinion to peak, igniting the indignation of people all over the world, especially the grassroots members of Blue Cosmos. They acted completely in accordance with the beliefs of Blue Cosmos, and hated the adjusters. As a result, now, Blue Cosmos was actually controlled by a group of death merchants. They just wanted to create disputes and profit from the disputes. This made their beliefs collapse, and all the negative emotions that had been suppressed for a long time were vented on Blue Cosmos. In the troops surrounded by the Kingdom of Scandinavia, the Archangel quietly docked on the sea, waiting for the arrival of Yang Hui and others. "Haven't they arrived yet?" Mew asked anxiously. After all, he knew more and knew that this was a battle that would determine the fate of this world. There's still half an hour before the scheduled time. Malu was also very anxious, but she was the captain and had to keep her emotions stable. "Captain, Lieutenant Colonel Ho and Major Kelly have arrived. Lieutenant Colonel Rena and Major Harrison have arrived. Major Houston has arrived. Lieutenant Carl and Lieutenant Broderick of the Space Army have landed on the Earth on the Kirin. Luo Jewel of the Scrap House and Kong Yun of Tail of the Giant Serpent are accompanying them. Major Jewel of the Zaft Army, Captain Elsman, Lieutenant Hanifs, and Lieutenant Wistinflus have arrived." One message after another came, representing the arrival of one ace after another, including those from Orban Zaft. After completing their missions, they all rushed here to participate in the final decisive battle. Contact the Kirin, try to receive them, and immediately resupply them. Understood. The Archangel recovered some of the machines, and the rest temporarily went to the Kirin for resupply. Especially the aces of the Zaft Army. Zaft does not have an integrated airspace warship. Only the most advanced Minerva has the ability to fly briefly in the atmosphere, but it was left in the universe by Yang Hui, so they can only temporarily stay on the Kirin or the Archangel and wait for the arrival of others. What's the situation? After boarding the Kirin, everyone rushed to the combat meeting room. No matter whether they knew each other or not, they nodded and greeted each other. After all, the next battle was very dangerous, and there were very few comrades. Except for the Sky Sword, everyone has arrived. "Where is Mina?" Malu asked Sven Karl Bayen and Emilio Broderick. "Commander, she used the sky boat, and her internal organs were displaced. She should not have woken up yet." Sven Karl Bayen replied. "Mina." Sigh. Malu sighed. She knew Mina's character. She was arrogant and aggressive, so she couldn't say anything. After emergency treatment, the doctor said there is no danger to life. "That's good. I say." Isaac leaned against the wall with his arms folded, his tone a little impatient. "Why doesn't that guy come yet?" Isaac. Diego and other Zaft aces were frightened by Isaac's tone and attitude. They were on Orb's ship now. If they accidentally pissed off the other party, they would be the meat filing for the dumplings. "It's okay." Malu calmed them down first. After all, they were all comrades in arms, and they couldn't let the relationship become strained. "The Sky Sword has entered the planned orbit and is expected to meet us in 10 minutes. Tisk, what a hassle." Isaac complained. His words also represented the thoughts of many people present. Since it's so dangerous, why not just use nuclear weapons to flatten that country? Orb should have them, right? Orb will not actively use nuclear weapons to attack other countries. Once nuclear weapons lose their deterrent significance, it will be a disaster for the world. Malu explained with a normal expression, but these were all excuses, because the intelligence about Festum had not been made public, and most of the people present didn't know how terrible the enemy they might face this time was. It wasn't that Festum was not afraid of nuclear bombs, but that they were worried, because they only knew that Festum was hidden in the core area of the royal palace of the Kingdom of Scandinavia, but they didn't know where this core area was, whether it was above ground or underground. Once the nuclear bomb is used, All traces of the Scandinavian kingdom will be wiped out. Once Festum is hidden deep underground, it can avoid the attack of nuclear weapons. In a short period of time, they still cannot explore the ruins of the Scandinavian kingdom. Once they waste time, or they escape, and Festum resumes its activities, then, the world will be finished. So Yang Hui didn't think of using nuclear weapons to directly destroy the Scandinavian kingdom. He had to see Festum being destroyed with his own eyes before he could feel at ease. Tisk, coward. Because they didn't know the real information, Yitzhak and others just thought that Orb cared too much about his face. Even if he promised not to use nuclear weapons at the beginning, what would it matter? Since the war has been declared and it is confirmed that it is the enemy, then it is better to destroy the enemy. 10 minutes passed quickly, and the sword of heaven descended from the sky and came to the side of the archangel and the Kirin. Yang Hui. Thank you for your hard work, Malu. It's okay. Compared to your mission, ours is already very easy. Are all the people here? Except for Mina, who used the sky boat and is in a coma, everyone else is here. Mina, forget it, I'll preach later, everyone go online. Understood. Soon, all the aces present looked at Yang Hui's young and majestic face and couldn't help but get nervous. Now I will announce to you the full content of this battle plan, including our target this time, and the real information about it. The information to be disclosed next may bring a huge shock to you, but please believe that all of this is the most real information. Chapter 482, Feelings Before the Battle. Hey, hey, hey. Are you kidding me? This is fake, right? How is it possible? This, extraterrestrial life? This kind of thing, can it really exist? When the information about Festum was made public in front of the aces, someone was just short of shouting fuck. This information was still modified. For example, the Legion of the Otherworld was changed to extraterrestrial life, which was also to conceal the true identity of Yang Hui and others. After everyone present won this battle and promise fortress connected to this world, more than half of the people would know the truth, but definitely not now. The above information is absolutely true. For this information, countless excellent intelligence personnel in Orb sacrificed their lives. Yang Hui assured again. He didn't blame Isaac and others for not believing the authenticity of the information. After all, it was too shocking. Especially Festum's abilities and characteristics, which were too scary and simply unsolvable. Yang Hui, even if this information is true, how should we deal with it? Isaac asked. Yes, the wormhole attack is not bad, at least it has the characteristics of pre-swing, just keep dodging, but the assimilation phenomenon. Although there is no means of defense against the wormhole attack, the intelligence said that before the opponent attacks, there will be a black flash as a prompt, and there is a possibility of dodging with a prompt. Everyone present is an ace, and even a 1-second warning can quickly dodge. But there is no way to prevent the assimilation phenomenon. This kind of attack that directly acts on the mind really has no way to prevent it. Once infected, it is equivalent to death, and even after death, it is not peaceful and will become an enemy to attack comrades. So this operation, keep the communication silent throughout the whole process, everyone fights on their own, and there can be no contact between each other. Yang Hui said. I see. Reduce distractions and focus on the fight. Also, reduce close combat as much as possible. Even if you have to, you must immediately distance yourself after killing the enemy. Festum's real body should not appear on the battlefield, otherwise Mephis would have determined the mission failed. But even so, no one knows what the Scandinavian kingdom has taken from the inactive Festum, so it is better to give warnings in advance to prevent the enemy from also having a wormhole created when they die and perishing together. I understand. Everyone, I don't care whether you are natural people or adjusters, no matter how many conflicts there are between you, but this war is about the fate of the earth and mankind. Once we lose, then whether you are adjusters or natural people, in their eyes, they are just food, livestock, and transformation materials. So, for the earth and for the human race, I hope everyone will put aside all prejudices and cooperate sincerely. Understood. X and everyone nodded seriously and answered. Yang Hui was right. At the moment when extraterrestrial life arrived, whether it was natural people or adjusters, they all belonged to the large group of humans. There was no difference. Not to mention for the earth and the fate of mankind, even for their own motherland and their own families, they had to win this war. Then everyone, cut off all communications in 5 minutes and attack together. The target is the palace of the Kingdom of Scandinavia. I wish you all good luck in military affairs. Yes. And the meeting ended, and everyone dispersed. Heavy pressure was on their shoulders. Everyone returned to their own bodies without any prior agreement, then closed the cockpit door, quietly wrote a will, and set a timer to send it. Even Yang Hui said that he could not guarantee that he could survive this battle, let alone them. But they could not escape, because they did not know where to escape to. Once they lost this battle, the Earth and mankind would be declared destroyed, unless they could escape from the Milky Way and this world, otherwise the ending would be the same wherever they escaped to. Hey, Yizhak. What's wrong? Aren't you going to accept it yet? Don't tell me you really can't see it. Accept what? What should I see? Shy, that girl. You don't really not know it yet, do you? What's wrong with Shy? Yizhak asked Diego innocently. He really didn't know what he was talking about. You, okay. No, what are you talking about? Nothing. Diego was depressed. He had always thought that Yizhak could see that Shy liked him. After all, it was so obvious, but he had not responded because of his personality. As a result, is he really so innocent? Question mark. No, Diego. Explain yourself. It's a jerk to say half the words. Go ask Shy later, I can't explain it clearly. Then why are you asking me? It's fun. Diego. You jerk. Maybe. Diego complained in his heart, wondering which innocent jerk captain didn't know that someone liked him. On the other side, Kira and Aslan also chatted and worried about the future, but not about the outcome of this war, but about the future after the victory of the war. Kira, what do you think of Promise Fortress? To be honest, I don't know, but I know you will definitely agree. In your eyes, can I only be a warrior? Aslan was very sad. He was indeed a soldier and was indeed good at fighting, but this did not mean that he liked his identity. He envied Nicole for being able to withdraw from the vortex of war and realize his dream again. Whether you are a warrior or not, you are still Aslan, right? Besides, can you just stand by and watch? Aren't you the same? Kira remained silent. He and Aslan were of the same kind, both very gentle and kind. They couldn't just sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor, and take it for granted that others had fought for them for peace. Sure enough, Yang Hui is worthy of it. The reason why he didn't mention it is because he understands us, right? After a long time, Kira sighed. Yes, but I think if we refuse, he won't force us, right? Isn't that Yang Hui? He doesn't say anything, doesn't force anything, but he can make others do what he wants. Haha, it's true. Aslan smiled bitterly and shook his head. He found Adi and Kira. No, it should be the people who were targeted by Yang Hui, could not escape Yang Hui's control. Speaking of Aslan, there are no ifs. But, do you believe what Yang Hui said? Haha, that's right. With him and them, we will definitely be able to survive and win. That's right. The two smiled at each other across the screen. They didn't say any more discouraging words, nor did they write suicide notes. They may not have confidence in themselves, but they have confidence in Yang Hui, Setsuna, Lyle, Tieria and others, and in Promise Fortress. Beep beep beep. Time's up, all machines. This is the last communication. I hope everyone can come back alive. Chapter 483, The Beginning of the Decisive Battle, The Terrible Monster. Each aircraft attacked in turn, with the Archangel, Kirin, and Skysword following closely behind, heading straight for the Kingdom of Scandinavia. In fact, Yang Hui did not tell others. Apart from him and Wong and other members of the Promise Fortress, only Malu, Bakalulu, Cruz, and the captain of the Kirin, Amerji, knew that the three ships were actually equipped with large-yield nuclear bombs. Once they were defeated, they would drop the nuclear bombs on the Kingdom of Scandinavia regardless of anything. After all, they were defeated, so they would fight to the death. If they were lucky, they might be able to take away Festum and all the assimilated people directly. If they were unlucky and failed, they could delay for a while, right? As the team of ace elites approached the main body of the Kingdom of Scandinavia, the red dots on the radar detection system increased, and soon exceeded 100. Sure enough, there was no need to look at the radar observation system. The optical camera could already see the situation of the Kingdom of Scandinavia and the situation of the enemies marked as red dots. The whole kingdom was densely packed with green figures. Perhaps because the main body of Festum was still inactive, It had not completely changed. The assimilated people still retained their human form, and even more than half of their human features, while the other half were green crystal clusters. In the sky, more than 50 Mizes had their joints covered with the green crystals. Some of them had already shown features similar to those of living creatures, and the head of the Gundam-type machine holding a giant sword in the center had turned into a distorted golden human face. The kingly heretic. Although it had changed a lot, the only remaining features allowed Yang Hui to recognize the main body of this machine, which was the kingly heretic Gundam. Let's start. All the creatures here, annihilate them all. There was no communication, no orders, no reminders. The silent tacit understanding made everyone attack at the same time. Yang Hui immediately entered the transformer mode, and his wings swayed countless orange light spots, which gathered into deadly energy balls and fell on the enemy planes in front of him. There were more bits falling in the city, exploding countless flames and engulfing countless semi-assimilated humans. Boom boom boom. Countless flames exploded, and the Dawn Gundam steps did not stop at all, bits swaying until he saw the gap between the joints of the enemy plane in front of him, shining with black light. I knew it. The Dawn Gundam immediately stopped its momentum, raised its head at a right angle, and barely avoided the black wormhole that appeared in the next second. The same was true for the others. After the first wave of attacks, they saw the flash of black light. A gust of cold wind touched their nerves, and they pulled the joysticks and immediately moved away from their previous positions. However, although they were all aces, there was still a gap. Several aces of Zaft were swallowed by the wormhole because they were a few tenths of a second slower. Damn it. So fast. Go to hell. Monster. Even if they did not trust Yang Hui and thought that the information was a fantasy, when the ironclad facts were placed in front of them, they had to believe that these were monsters that did not belong to the Earth. Are you there? As the wormhole attack began, the same voice rang in everyone's mind at the same time. It was a rough but pleasant female voice. If it were normal, they might be happy for a while. After all, the voice was nice, and maybe they could have a wonderful encounter when they turned around. But now, they gritted their teeth and forced themselves to ignore the voice. They even kept all the curses in their hearts and dared not speak, because Yang Hui said that no matter whether they answered it or not, no matter what kind of answer it was, it might be regarded as an answer, and then assimilation would occur. All missile launchers are loaded with ground-to-ground missiles, targeting Scandinavia, indiscriminate coverage. Lohengrin is activated, charging begins, and the target is locked on the enemy leader's body. Avoid. Turn left 30 degrees, Godfold, launch. No one dared to speak on the battleship's bridge. All they could hear was the sound of intensive keyboard tapping, and all orders could only be issued by telegram. What is this? At this moment, a scream suddenly came from the bridge of the Kulin. The 6 hands were suddenly wrapped in green crystals, which then quickly spread upwards and covered the entire person, and then, bang bang bang. Xian Chang drew his gun and shot without hesitation, smashing the crystals into pieces, then sat down again and continued to command the battleship. Damn it. These monsters. Xian Chang was also sweating profusely. The man just now was too nervous and subconsciously said stop making noise, and then the assimilation phenomenon occurred. This was in line with the intelligence given by Yang Hui in advance. Any words would be regarded as a response to Festum and then assimilated. No one is allowed to be alone. The Marines on the ship are in an emergency state. No one is allowed to be alone. Once anyone shows assimilation, shoot and eliminate them immediately. Understood. And the telegram of this order did not receive an immediate reply, but only sent yes answers more than 10 seconds later, because before assimilation, the people around them were their comrades and companions, and it was really difficult for them to do this. But the order is like this, and for the safety of others, they must also be stained with the blood of their companions. With the first one, there will naturally be the second, the third. It's not just the Kirin, the Archangel and the Sky Sword are also facing the same crisis. Archangel, 3 people in the dormitory area have assimilated, and they have been confirmed to be eliminated. Sky Sword, 1 person in the warehouse has assimilated, and they have been confirmed to be eliminated. Kirin, 2 people in the maintenance class have assimilated, and they have been confirmed to be eliminated. Bang. Baki Lulu slammed her fist on the armrest of the captain's seat, her face very ugly. If it weren't for preventing the occurrence of assimilation, she would definitely curse and then ruthlessly issue the order to eliminate all these monsters. Tiger has lost all its weapons, including its right arm and left leg. It requests to return to the ship. Approved. The maintenance squad is on standby to repair Tiger as quickly as possible. Understood. The signals of Lightning and Grey Wolf are lost. Enemy planes are coming towards our ship. Fire the Courage. Missile launchers number 1 to number 4, anti-aircraft diffusion bombs, fire. Let the Cherubim take over the positions of Grandmaster and Death, and transfer 2 planes to fill the gap of Lightning and Grey Wolf. Understood. The battle situation has entered a white-hot stage. Because of the emergence of wormhole attacks and assimilation, all missiles are unable to quickly destroy enemy planes. Gradually, some people can't stand the pressure anymore, start cursing, and then are assimilated, turning their guns at their former companions. Some people make wrong predictions, are swallowed up by wormholes in the chaos, and disappear into nothingness. The Dawn Gundam maintained high-speed maneuvers at this time, leaving a gorgeous picture in the air with a strange and elegant arc, and behind it, there was a chain of beads strung together by a series of black wormholes. Chapter 484, Fierce Battle. The battle was in full swing. In addition to keeping moving at high speed to guard against the spherical wormhole, it was also necessary to pay attention to the comrades around, because, Claire, that bastard. I've told you again and again. Isaac's slashing Zaku Phantom was being chased and hit by a blue Zaku Phantom. The weapon system had locked it, but he was reluctant to pull the trigger. The pilot of this Zaku Phantom was the Kang Lang. In the report, green crystals appeared clearly at the cockpit or on his chest, and even spread outward bit by bit. As for the other, Lightning, in the report, he was lying on the ground with only half a leg left, and the rest of his body was nowhere to be found. Not good. Isaac's hair stood up, and a cold feeling of death enveloped his whole body. He subconsciously wanted to push the joystick to escape from his current position. But Kang Lang's weapon locked him. As an ace and veteran with combat experience, even if he could avoid the swallowing of the spherical wormhole, he could not avoid Kang Lang's shooting. At this moment, the bright high-energy cannon pierced through the abdomen of the Kang Lang, and the slashing Zaku Phantom immediately left its location. The next second, a black spherical wormhole appeared and swallowed its right foot. Hoo, Isaac panted, feeling grateful for surviving the disaster, but reality did not give him much time to rest. The body suddenly felt a violent vibration, and the screen of the cockpit was filled with black Zaku Phantoms, and then the black Zaku Phantom pushed the slashing Zaku Phantom away with one hand, and at the same time, a spherical wormhole appeared, swallowing half of the black Zaku Phantom's body. Isaac of course recognized this Zaku Phantom. It was Diego's plane, and just when he was grateful that he survived, Diego saved him for the second time, but also paid a price. The loss of half of his body was not enough for Diego's Zaku Phantom to continue fighting, and even the cockpit was exposed, and Diego himself could be seen. He wanted to exclaim, but thinking of the ending of Kang Lang, Isaac immediately stopped talking, hugged the wreckage of Diego's plane and flew towards the 3 warships without hesitation. As for their vacant position, the nearest to Angel had moved sideways for a while, bringing the gap into the range of the Angel's shooting. Boom! The energy torrent cut through the air, splitting the sky in two. As the Angel rotated, it swept horizontally and took away several enemy planes. Tisk. Tieria cursed inwardly that the result did not meet her expectations, but she did not dare to speak. She could only continue to move at the highest speed and use the beam cannon to clear the enemy. This is not a solution. Yang Hui. Lyle was also defending the position of 3 people alone. The pressure he was under was getting greater and greater. He couldn't help but look in the direction of the Dawn Gundam. At this time, the Dawn Gundam was still being chased around by a series of spherical wormholes. Bit was desperately waving out, clearing one enemy plane after another. I don't know if it was the tacit understanding cultivated over the years, or if the brain quantum wave detected Lyle's thoughts. When the Dawn Gundam dodged the attack of the spherical wormhole, it looked at the Cherubim and nodded, and then Trans-AM. X for the Dawn Gundam, Exa, Cherubim and Devil all turned red at the same time, and the GN particles sprayed out became more concentrated. The 4 machines also dragged long after images, and they dreamily interspersed back and forth among the enemy aircraft. This is. Are they using the trump card? Trans-AM. Trans-AM. X2. After seeing Yang Hui and the other 4 use the trump card of Trans-AM, Kira, Atherin, and Cruz also activated the Trans-AM system, At the same time, the bodies of the machines turned red, the pseudo-solar furnaces were running at high speed, and the GN particles were desperately sprayed out, dragging after images and disappearing on the spot. The 7 top trump cards used the Trans-AM system at the same time, and the effect was terrible. More than half of the enemy aircraft that were left disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. All aircraft assist the battleship in clearing the assimilated people on the ground. Exa, Cherubim, and Devil, follow me to destroy the enemy leader. Understood. XN sent a telegram-style order to everyone. After the last enemy aircraft was destroyed, except for the 3 aircraft named, everyone else immediately turned all their guns to the ground. Beams, shells, missiles, whatever it was, all poured onto the ground. In the flames of the explosion, densely packed small black wormholes flashed, and each small wormhole represented an assimilated person being eliminated. At this time, the 4 Dawn Gundams also came in front of the King Astray Gundam. At the first moment, the Dawn Gundams bit, Cherubim's beam shooting, and Devil's beam cannon bombarded the King Astray Gundam's location. Fire, explosion, smoke, gravel, shock wave, instantly submerged the King Astray Gundam. The terrible attack, the terrible energy frenzy, in theory, no matter what it was, it should have been reduced to ashes. But they did not relax at all, but moved at the first moment, constantly changing their positions. As expected, but also unexpected, because what attacked was not a spherical wormhole, but a pure black stream of light, as flexible as a whip and as sharp as a sword. What? 2 streams of light cut through the fire and smoke, and even cut through the air, making a sharp sizzling sound, and went towards the Angel of Power and the Angel of Devil like lightning. So fast. T-Irio was horrified, and tried to move the Angel of Devil to avoid the slash of the black stream of light. However, speed was originally the weak point of the Angel of Devil. The attack speed of the black light was too fast. Even the Angel of Devil who activated the Trans-AM system could not completely avoid it. Seeing that it could no longer dodge, the Angel of Devil immediately opened the GN stand that he was proud of for defense, but puff, the black stream of light simply penetrated the GN stand like a hot knife cutting into tofu, and cut through the Angel of Devil's right arm smoothly. What? T-Iria's expression became very ugly. He was very confident in everything about the solar furnace and GN particles. As a result, now, facing the attack of Festum, he was cut open without any resistance. This made T-Iria suffer a huge blow. Back off. The body of the Angel lost an arm and half of its weapons, and its strength was greatly reduced. In addition, the performance of the body also declined a lot. The mobility was also difficult to cope with the attack speed of the Kingly Astray Gundam. It was better to return to the ship for maintenance and then come back. The Exa, who was regarded as another target, avoided the lightning-like attack with its excellent mobility and Setsuna's innate excellent intuition, but was still frightened by the fact that the GN field of the Angel was cut open in an instant. The deformation of the spherical wormhole. Yang Hui's expression was very ugly. Seeing that the Kingly Astray Gundam was cut open after the smoke, the giant sword in his hand was divided into 2 one-handed swords. The blade of each one-handed sword had been wrapped by the black light wormhole, and the flowing light was really a deformed spherical wormhole. From his memory of Fafnir of the Sky, he knew that the spherical wormhole deformation attack only appeared in the later period. The Festum that could use the spherical wormhole deformation attack was no longer a miscellaneous soldier, so the Dawn Gundam made a gesture to Exa and Cherubim, and the 2 of them disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chapter 485, Destroy them all. Swish. At this time, Setsuna no longer worried about whether assimilation would occur after contact with a Gundam Astray. He flashed to the back of the Gundam Astray, threw all 6 beam daggers, and rushed towards the Gundam Astray at the same time, changing his gun into a sword, dodging the wormhole blade that swept across and shot down the beam dagger, and thrusting with both swords. But just when the blade was about to touch the Gundam Astray, the Angelus immediately stopped, backflipped and retreated quickly, because a black wall of light suddenly appeared between it and the Gundam Astray. Needless to say, it must be some kind of deformed wormhole. If the physical sword stabbed it, it would definitely go without return. But it was not only the Angelus who fought against the Gundam Astray, but also the Cherubim and the Dawn Gundam. Boom 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 boom. From the other side of the black streamer wall, beams of light fell like raindrops, blasting countless flames and smoke again, and it works. Attack or defend, you can only choose one, and the defense can only be in one direction. The Cherubim and Dawn Gundam, who kept their distance from the Royalist Stray Gundam, immediately observed the other party's intelligence, which was a great advantage for them. Without stopping, the Dawn Gundam and the Cherubim quickly separated to both sides. The next second, the black streamer blade cut through the flames and smoke again, and under the flames and smoke, the wormhole wall really did not exist. The Dawn Gundam did not hesitate to change its gun into a sword and rush towards the Royalist Stray Gundam, stabbing with both swords, but at the same time, it was exactly the same as the Exa, turning back at the moment it was about to be released, so that the physical sword did not touch the wormhole. As the Dawn Gundam retreated, the wormhole wall began to shrink and merged with the blade of the one-handed sword again. The Dawn Gundam locked in the air was about to swing, but I predicted that you predicted my prediction. Exa suddenly appeared on the other side of the King Stray Gundam, slashing from top to bottom with her sharp sword. Finally, for the first time since the start of the war, she encountered the thrown Stray Gundam. Sizzle, sizzle. What a strong defense. Sparks flew non-stop. For the first time, the high-frequency vibration sword of Exa encountered armor that could not be cut. The harsh sound of friction even made the air vibrate. But Exa did not give up. Another high-frequency vibration sword pierced the gap in the armor. The superposition of the forces on both sides finally broke through the armor of the King Stray Gundam. With a cut and a twist, the left hand was removed. The King Stray Gundam did not expect this scene. At the moment when its arm was removed, there was a brief pause. Good opportunity. Yang Hui naturally could not miss this excellent opportunity. The Dawn Gundam rushed forward and slashed the gap of the right shoulder of the King Stray Gundam from both sides with two swords. At the same time, the gaps in the wings gathered into strips like woven cloth, wrapped around the gaps of the two swords, and pulled outward. S's. Swish. X2 Yang Hui and the other two did not dare to hesitate. The sharp blade of the Angel of Exa burst out from the body of the King Stray Gundam, and at the same time, the sharp blade of the Dawn Gundam pierced into the head. The two machines did not stop. After the sharp blade pierced into the body of the King Stray Gundam, they quickly withdrew. The next second, a rain of beams fell like raindrops. Lyle kept pulling the trigger until the smoke and fire were swallowed by the spherical wormhole that suddenly appeared, and then he stopped his hands. Solved. Lyle was overjoyed, and Setsuna and Yang Hui, who was in the state of the reformer, also raised their mouths, because the King Stray Gundam had disappeared, leaving only a smooth pit on the ground. The three machines looked at each other, nodded at the same time, and then separated in three different directions, sweeping the golden dots on the ground. As long as there was any assimilation phenomenon, even if there was still hope in the future, Yang Hui and the others would not risk saving them. Now, they could only be annihilated. About an hour later, the war in the Kingdom of Scandinavia subsided. The Exa, Cherubim, Devil's Angel, Dawn Gundam, Infinite Justice Gundam, Strike Freedom Gundam, and Providence Gundam kept their altitude and circled above the ruins, looking for the fish that slipped through the net with a small probability. At the same time, three warships surrounded the palace in a triangle. A transport plane landed from the warship to the ground, and a large number of Marines blew open the gate of the palace and rushed in. Except for the palace, there are definitely no fish that slipped through the net. Yang Hui's telegram came to the Sky Sword, Archangel and Kirin at the same time, and came to Malu, Bakalulu and Amaji. The Marines found a secret passage leading to the underground and are exploring it. Bakalulu replied in a telegram. Tell them to be careful. If Yang Hui, who was writing a telegram, stopped his hands, his face full of surprise, because Bakalulu sent another telegram, and it was the news he wanted most. Just now I reported that the Marines found the hiding place of Festum, a secret research institute 500 meters underground in the palace. Take photos and record, delete all research data, and then conduct the ultimate explosion. Understood. After confirming that there were no assimilated people in the Kingdom of Scandinavia, the machines gathered in the air above the palace, overlooking this dilapidated but historical palace. They were waiting for the moment when the final target was eliminated, waiting for complete victory, and the moment when humans and the Earth were safe. Half an hour was a tormenting time. Every minute and every second seemed to be infinitely stretched. They watched the special small nuclear bomb carefully delivered to the ground, and then slowly sent into the palace, and then, operation completed, everyone retreat. Understood. And after everyone returned to the Sky Sword, Archangel and Kirin, the three warships evacuated the Kingdom of Scandinavia at the fastest speed, stayed above the sea, waiting for the timer to return to zero, and then a spectacular and magnificent mushroom cloud rose. Chapter 486, Unable to confirm, Yang Hui is anxious, for Otto's Yang boss. Looking at the mushroom cloud rising, Yang Hui didn't know whether Festum was really completely destroyed, but in front of the nuclear bomb, Festum, which was only in an inactive state, should not be able to survive, right? Mephis, is the mission completed? The best means of confirmation is Mephis and the mission. As long as the mission is completed, it can be confirmed that it has been destroyed. Unable to confirm, the commander has not yet completed all the requirements of the second phase of the mission. Atlantic Federation. Yang Hui frowned slightly. Among all the mission targets, only the Atlantic Federation is the most difficult target. Logos and the Library Staff Organization have been confirmed to be destroyed. Blue Cosmos is also a name only because of the exposure of Logos. Only the Atlantic Federation is left. It is not easy to destroy a country in a short period of time, let alone the Atlantic Federation. Although the Atlantic Federation has been suppressed by Orb after the Second Battle of Yakandui, excluding Orb, the Atlantic Federation is still the strongest country in the world. Even if Yang Hui and others all take action, it will take a long time to destroy the Atlantic Federation. In this way, the result of the Festum cannot be confirmed, and the mission may fail at any time. Yes, Atlantic Federation, do you mean the current political situation or the entire country? The current political situation, to be precise, refers to everyone related to the Festum, I understand. Yang Hui nodded, and his expression became much better. If it was just like this, there would not be a need to waste too many events. Cruz, clear out all the senior executives of Blue Cosmos and all those who have close ties with Blue Cosmos, Logos and the Kingdom of Scandinavia, and inform Halberden. I will only give him 3 days. If he can't take that position within 3 days, don't blame us for taking action. Understood. Looming, hold a press conference immediately and selectively release the battle records. I want the current political situation of the Atlantic Federation and the reputation of Blue Cosmos to be ruined. Understood. Malu, Nadal, can the protective clothing you prepared withstand this level of radiation? Yes. X2 after the temperature drops, send someone to determine the situation of Festum. Understood. Although the best way to confirm whether the mission is completed is to confirm whether it is completed, Yang Hui will not wait foolishly for time to pass. He doesn't know whether he can get the result, but he still prepares 2 sets of plans to carry out simultaneously and end it as soon as possible. Bang. After receiving the notification from Cruz, no, it was a threat in his eyes. Duan Halbottom had no idea what happened. The intelligence he had received was that the nuclear bomb exploded in the Kingdom of Scandinavia. Logically, Orb and the Zaf coalition should have one. But why did Orb send him such a harsh request just after it ended? Is this an excuse? Is Orb going to attack the Atlantic Federation? No, Yang Hui will not do such a thing. If he wanted to attack the Atlantic Federation, he would have declared war on the Atlantic Federation when the war started. He still disdains such a thing of crossing the river and destroying the bridge. So, what happened? Are the people of the Kingdom of Scandinavia still inside the Atlantic Federation? After thinking for a long time, Duan Halbottom could not get an answer, but soon, the report from the adjutant gave him a clue. General, Orb has called a press conference. At this juncture? A declaration of victory. No, it's... What's wrong? Duan Halbottom saw the panic of the adjutant, who was hesitant to speak, and even had a hint of fear, which made him feel bad. You'd better take a look for yourself. Duan Halbottom turned on the terminal and watched the press conference held by Wang Liumeng. The result was... How is this possible? Duan Halbottom stood up in shock, looking at the terminal. Wang Liumeng's selective disclosure of information about the Scandinavian Kingdom and Festum, the mutant monsters that appeared all over the city, the unimaginable wormhole attack, and the terrible assimilation phenomenon, all of which told Duan Halbottom what happened in the Scandinavian Kingdom and why they used nuclear bombs to attack this small country. Commander, is this really an extraterrestrial creature? The adjutant swallowed his saliva and asked fearfully. Should this kind of thing exist on Earth? Duan Halbottom pointed at the mutant creature on the screen and cursed. No. Then what else is there to ask? Those bastards at the top. When I think of the fact that most of the top leaders of the Atlantic Federation are members of Blue Cosmos, and have a close relationship with logos, it may be because of the benefits these monsters can bring. This is a complete act of treason. Commander, we are now. Notify our people to immediately arrest those Blue Cosmos people, and the fleet will enter the first-level combat configuration. Understood. After the adjutant left, Dwayne Halbottom sat back in his chair tiredly, pinching his nose to calm himself down. He now has the answer, why Yang Hui made such a strict request to him, and reaching the highest position in 3 days is not a joke. Although with the help of Orb, there are already many comrades in the Atlantic Federation, and they have been preparing for the Atlantic Federation to change the world, but they are not ready yet. Beep, beep. Dwayne Halbottom answered the call immediately after seeing the number was from an old friend of his and one of the high-ranking officials in the Atlantic Federation. It's me. Halbottom, something happened to Clemmy and the others. What? What happened? Just now I received news that all members of the Blue Cosmos faction in the federal parliament have been exposed for their crimes, including assassination, bribery, collusion, massacre, etc., and there is hard evidence for all these crimes. Now the country is in chaos, and the people have begun to march, demanding severe punishment for these people. Some of the evidence also involves other countries, and various countries have sent questioning telegrams. This. Dwayne Halbottom had no doubt that this must be the work of Yang Hui. Apart from Orb, he couldn't think of anyone else who could attack so many people at the same time. This is a good thing. Good thing? You mean? That's right. Orb asked me to take that position within 3 days, otherwise they will do it themselves. This. We can't let them interfere. That's right, otherwise the Atlantic Federation will be gone, so we should act too. I know, I'll contact them right away. Remember, control the public's emotions first. It's best to arrest a few people like Clemmy and hold a public trial. The public's emotions need an outlet. What about the military? The person on the other side of the pad was worried, saying bluntly that what they were doing now is called a coup. Without strong military power, a coup would only fail. Leave the military to me. Okay, please. I'll vote for you when the time comes. Thanks, old friend. The communication was hung up. Dwayne Halbottom was amused by his old friend's behavior of standing in line. What does it mean to vote for me? Yang Hui only made a request to me. Isn't this a very obvious result? Does anyone else have ideas about this position? Then you have to think about it. After waking up from a sleep, will there be any black material and evidence of your crimes made public, or is your head still on your neck? Thanks to Zhang for the 10,000 reward. As promised, 2 more chapters will be presented. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 487 mission finally completed. 3 days passed quickly. In the current political situation of the Atlantic Federation, anyone who had any connection with Blue Cosmos, Logos, or the Kingdom of Scandinavia, even if they were just a grassroots government employee or grassroots soldier, was cleared out. They were either arrested or died in various accidents. Dwayne Halbottom and his comrades stood up at the most tense time, calmed the public's emotions and quickly took over their work, taking control of the political situation and the military. Of course, it is definitely impossible to achieve 100% control in such a short time, but it has reached the basic requirements for stabilizing a country, and the public support for them is still very high. Because of Dwayne Halbottom's arrangement, several senior members of the federal parliament, including Clemmy, were arrested and publicly tried. Because the crimes they committed were too numerous to list, they were directly sentenced to death and guaranteed to be broadcast live. At the same time, they also made a promise to the people that the property of these people would go directly into the national treasury, and listed a policy list, from people's livelihood, medical care, greening and other aspects to military weapons, to use these properties in the construction and development of the country. However, none of these were what Yang Hui cared about. He only cared about the final result. So, at the end of the 3rd day, Yang Hui and his companions, who were still staying in the ruins of the Scandinavian kingdom, finally heard the sound of the mission reminder. 2nd stage mission, destroy the Atlantic Federation, Blue Cosmos, Logos, Librarian, organizations, find out the distortion points of the world, eliminate the distortion points, and prevent the invasion of foreign enemies. All requirements are met, and the completion rate is calculated, 100%. Face the Festum in advance and eliminate it perfectly. The reward is increased. Protect the world coordinates of Gundam Seed from being leaked. The reward is increased. Calculation is completed. The reward is 4 times of construction opportunities, 4 times of strengthening opportunities, 10 times of skill extraction opportunities, 10 times of skill strengthening opportunities, and 5 material gift packs, extra large. Judging that the second stage mission is the final mission of this world, the world deviation calculation will begin now. In the first stage, secretly strengthen orb 30%, change the escape route of the Archangel 5%, Nicola Malfi, Thornig, and Ahisha Trine survive 3%, Siegel Klein and Nadal Bakalu survive 5%, Lakis Klein joins orb 6%, Ralu Cruz survives 10%, participate in the second Yakanduvi war and change the direction of the war. No results 16% changes in orb's international status after the second Yakanduvi war 40%. The total world deviation is 258%, which exceeds 100%, and the qualification for connecting the Gundam Seed world with the Promise Fortress is obtained. Commander, please determine the connection location and establish a two-way channel. I can finally relax. After receiving the notification that the mission was completed, Yang Hui, Wang Liumei, Setsuna, Lyle, Tiria and others were finally able to relax their tense nerves. No matter where they were, they all smiled at the same time. Communication silence has ended. The target has been completely eliminated. Everyone, we have won. Oh. The moment the communication was restarted, whether it was the 3-ship force that was still holding on to the sky above the Kingdom of Scandinavia, or other forces far away in other battlefields, or people waiting for the results in the rear, at this moment, all cheered, especially the pilots and crew members who participated in the Scandinavian Kingdom strategy war, whether they were natural people or adjusters, or Borzaft, they all hugged each other and celebrated a hard-won victory. We won. We really won. Yahoo! We protected the Earth. We defeated the aliens. Finally I can stop being dumb. I'm dying. Who isn't? Ha ha ha. It's just them. On the Sky Sword, Archangel, and Kirin, people mentioned the comrades who died, and the atmosphere was filled with sadness. They will be very happy if they know the result. Nonsense. People are dead, why should they be happy? What can we do? Will they come back alive if we are sad? I know, but... Alice. Don't think too much. There will be sacrifices in war. We are lucky to survive, but they are not favored by the goddess of luck. Well, does anyone know their home address? I'll apply for a vacation when I go back. And me. Exchange. Okay. Everyone present was an experienced veteran. No one was immersed in sadness. They quickly adjusted their emotions, but it didn't mean that the sadness disappeared. Instead, it was buried deep in their hearts. They took it as a responsibility, continued to live, and moved forward with a heavy burden. The Commander-in-Chief is back. Colonel Kingain and the others are back too. Let's go. Let's go and welcome the heroes. Nonsense. Who here isn't a hero? Don't think I don't know that this is what the Commander-in-Chief said. Can't I borrow it? Soon, the Dawn Gundam and other machines that had been patrolling outside returned to the ship, one after another. The moment the cockpit was opened, Yang Hui and others heard deafening cheers and applause. They walked out of the cockpit and saw that the bottom of the machine was full of people. Yang Hui shook his head and laughed as he got off the plane. Commander-in-Chief. Lord Yang Hui. Your Excellency is the best. Your Excellency has led us to victory again. All right. Everyone. A sharp shout made the noisy and bustling hangar quiet down immediately, and everyone waited eagerly for Yang Hui's speech. The maintenance squad should immediately prepare the machines, and the troops should withdraw and return to Orb to hold a celebration banquet. I'll treat, order whatever you want. Oh. Notify the Zaft warriors on the Archangel and the Kirin to go together. No one is allowed to be absent. Also, all those who participated in the war will be given a 1-month paid vacation after returning, and they are not allowed to be recalled unless the country is to be destroyed. The same goes for Zaft. If Durandal disagrees, tell me and I'll beat him up. Ha 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 ha. Not only the Orb army, but also the Zaft soldiers present burst into laughter. To be honest, many people present didn't know Yang Hui. They only knew that he was very capable in all aspects. They didn't expect that he would be such an interesting person when they met him in private. Okay, disband. Work when it's time to work, rest when it's time to rest. Stand guard for the last shift. Understood. XN now, even the Zaft army is convinced by Yang Hui, not only because of his strength, but also because of his unique personality charm. He could have been high and mighty, but he took the initiative to descend to the mortal world and mingle with them. Who doesn't like such a leader? So even the Zaft people saluted Yang Hui and listened to Yang Hui's orders carefully. After everyone dispersed, Setsuna, Lyle, Tieria, Cruz, Kira, Aslan and others also surrounded him with smiles, but their eyes revealed different emotions. Setsuna and the other two were relaxed, Cruz was excited, and Kira and Aslan were expecting, excited, and worried. Let's go, take a good rest first, and then there will be a celebration banquet. Those things, let's talk about them after we have fun. Everyone was stunned for a moment when they heard the words, then smiled at each other, and as Yang Hui waved his hand, they followed behind Yang Hui with their arms around each other. The extra chapter is over. Thank you for your support. I have been in a very bad state recently. Something happened at home that made me upset. I sounded irritable when replying to comments. I am trying to adjust. I will stop talking and hurry up to write. I don't have much left. The second chapter is over. Thank you again for the reward from Ada Zhang. Chapter 488, Single Dog, Good Friend. The troops from all over the country withdrew. Except for Mina, who is still in a coma. Even the Minerva in the universe landed on the Earth and met at Tsujima in the Orb mainland. It was not because there were subsequent combat missions, but for the gathering time. After all, Yang Hui had issued orders, and all the participants in the war must attend the celebration banquet, and no absence was allowed. Oh, Mr. Yang Hui, you are really. Durandal, who came from the plant mainland, looked at Yang Hui helplessly, smiling bitterly and shaking his head without any emotion. When he heard Yang Hui say that he wanted to beat him, Durandal's hair stood up. Others might think that Yang Hui was joking, but Durandal knew very well that if he objected, he would really be beaten. And it was the kind of beating that would kill him if he couldn't be beaten to death. Shouldn't we get together and have a happy gathering at this time? But it's easy to cause misunderstandings to other forces. This secret war was originally a cooperation between Orb and Zaft. After the war, the Orb army and Zaft became as close as a family. It's hard not to put pressure on other forces, especially now that the Atlantic Federation's political and military power has changed, and Orb and Plant are the two most powerful forces. It doesn't matter, they can't do anything. As expected of Mr. Yang Hui, it seems that you have thought of this moment a long time ago. Durandal thought he saw through everything, but Yang Hui made him realize that he thought Yang Hui was on the 5th floor, but Yang Hui was in the atmosphere. No, I didn't arrange anything. I just don't care. What do you mean? You can open your horizons a little more. You mean? Durandal was shocked. He understood what Yang Hui meant. It was precisely because he understood what Yang Hui meant that he was shocked and excited. Well, our mission in this world is completed. What's left is to connect the world. Yang Hui said calmly to Durandal while drinking and looking at the celebrating crowd below. Can you be more specific? Two-way door. Join us and come and go freely, don't join us, stay for a limited time. How many worlds are there now? There is only one besides this one. I understand. Now Durandal is not worried at all that other forces will unite to boycott Orb and Plant. Even if only one world is connected, it is still a world. Not to mention being enemies with him, facing Orb and Plant, the two most powerful countries in the world, and being enemies with a world, is there any chance of winning? No. Therefore, this world is already in Yang Hui's pocket. Peaceful coexistence is a way, and it is also the best way. If someone wants war, then prepare to face destruction. What are you talking about? At this time, Cruz also came to Yang Hui and Durandal with a glass of wine. Seeing his rosy face, he knew that he had drunk a lot. Talking about the future. Yang Hui raised his eyebrows and said with interest. The future. I'm looking forward to that moment. Cruz clinked his glass with Yang Hui's and drank it all. From birth to now, this is the happiest moment for him, because all the mysteries he has been looking forward to will unfold in front of him. I'm looking forward to it too. Durandal also raised his glass and drank it all, but... It seems that he is not good at drinking. He choked a lot with just champagne. Sorry, I've never drunk like this before. Durandal was embarrassed. After all, He had to keep a clear mind at all times to deal with various possible situations. You are still so weak, Gilbert. Cruz laughed jokingly. By the way, you and Captain Curitis. Speaking of Talia, Durandal was silent, his eyes moved down, looking at Talia who was sitting with Meru, Bakalulu, Wong and other women. His eyes were complicated and full of love. No way? Haven't you told her yet? Yang Hui and Cruz asked Durandal in surprise. No, after all, she already has. Child? Can't you raise it as your own? Of course. But I'm afraid she won't accept it. Yang Hui stared with dead fish eyes. It seems that Durandal is really low level. Talia can still have a tryst with Durandal even though she has a child, and finally she is willing to accompany Durandal to die together. Even so, is he still worried that Talia won't accept it? Why, what's wrong? How often? Once or twice a month? Wait. Durandal answered Yang Hui's question subconsciously, but as soon as he finished speaking, his whole face turned red, not because of the effect of alcohol, but because of shyness. As for how he understood what Yang Hui was asking, it can only be said that this is a tacit understanding between men. You coward. Yang Hui rolled his eyes at Durandal and walked downstairs, but Durandal pulled Yang Hui, and the bad premonition in his heart became stronger and stronger. Can I go to my wives? Yang Hui said unhappily. Well, your word wolves is very important. Cruz teased jokingly. That's my skill, you two single dogs don't know shit. Puff. X2 Cruz and Durandal were hit hard. Cruz didn't care about this kind of thing at first. If he wanted to find a female companion, it would be easy, but he didn't feel the need, so he has been single, and may even be single in the future. But for some reason, when this topic came out of Yang Hui's mouth, he felt seriously hurt, like 1,000 arrows shot at the same time, accurately piercing his entire heart without leaving any gaps. Durandal loudly retorted, I'm not. If you can only have a tryst, aren't you a single dog? If you have the guts, take him home. Puff. Durandal is still too young. If it was Cruz, he would definitely tell him not to refute Yang Hui, because your mouth cannon is not good, it will only cause secondary trauma. I'm going down. I won't accompany you two good friends anymore. The two of them looked at each other subconsciously after being hurt again, and then took a small step back at the same time, and then stared blankly at Yang Hui's back as he walked down the stairs, and then very naturally, it was a shameless natural, joined the women's small team, and then was kicked out again, and then found Kira and Aslan with resentment and grievance, and vented the resentment and grievance on them. Puff haha. This scene made Durandal and Cruz upstairs laugh. Who would have thought that Yang Hui, who is invincible on the battlefield, elegant as a nobleman in formal occasions, and full of kingly majesty, had such a lovely side in private? I really don't understand him. Durandal once again questioned the existence of Yang Hui. He felt that there was still a huge error in his understanding of Yang Hui. Haha, I said the same thing again, he is very simple. But not simple. That's right, haha. Chapter 489, Protesting Kidneys, Earth Federation. Yang Hui raised his hand to block the sunlight coming through the gap in the curtains. He looked at the time and it was already 7 o'clock. It was time to get up. He gently moved away the jade arms and legs that were pressing on him, tiptoed out of bed and put on his pajamas, then glanced at his rosy-faced and happy wives, and proudly walked towards the bathroom. However, Yang Hui held his aching waist with his hands all the way. After Yang Hui got out of bed, Wang Liumei, Malu, Bakalulu, and Lux also opened their eyes and woke up one after another. This should be the tacit understanding between husband and wife. Sister Wang, what time is it? Wang Liumei closed her eyes again and asked in a soft voice. It's 7 o'clock, it's time to get up. Wang replied lazily, asking others to get up, but he didn't move. I'm so tired, I don't want to get up. Lux curled up in the quilt like a kitten. But I can't not get up, especially you and Liumei. Malu stretched and stretched out her hot body covered by the quilt. The meeting starts at 8:30. You should get up now and leave for the headquarters of the Earth Federation immediately. There's still time. Baki Lulu sat up and smoothed her messy hair. But I'm really tired. Lux snorted. Who made you so crazy last night? Wang slapped Lux in a bad mood. As for where he slapped, it was up to your imagination. Don't you know how beastly that guy is? You actually want to beat him. Are you looking for death? That's because you don't help me. We are just one step away from overthrowing the rule of the great demon king. If you help us again, we will die. X4 woo woo woo. Okay, get up quickly and pack up. Well, okay. The private conversation between the sisters can be whatever they want, but it won't make them forget the business. None of the five is a vase. Compared with being sweet and affectionate with Yang Hui all day long, they hope to help Yang Hui handle everything and make him more relaxed. Are you awake? Yang Hui happened to come out of the bathroom and saw the five girls getting out of bed one after another, enjoying the beautiful scenery. It will be too late if you don't get up now. Wang rolled his eyes at Yang Hui and didn't care about Yang Hui's wolf-like gaze. You are really something. Don't you know how to restrain yourself? Who told you to rebel? I have to show some real skills. How can I be the head of the family? It's Lux. Not us. X4 Wang Liumei, Malu and Baki Lulu said angrily at the same time. But you didn't stop her, and you secretly helped her. Yang Hui spread his hands and said jokingly. Well. The five girls blushed and quickly put on their pajamas. They pushed Yang Hui, who was leaning against the door frame, away and went into the bathroom to wash up. Yang Hui shrugged indifferently. He wanted to tell them that if he didn't hold back, none of the five of them would get out of bed today, but because of the protest of his waist, he couldn't say it out loud. Wang Liumei, and Lakis followed Yang Hui on a special plane to the headquarters of the Earth Federation. Malu and Bakulu were escorted by the Archangel and the Sky Sword respectively. All the Miz troops on the battleships were present. Setsuna, Lyle, Tiria, Cruz, Kira, Aslan, Mew and others were all there. It can be said that it was the most luxurious escort lineup in the world. Half a year has passed since the end of the battle in the Scandinavian kingdom. Durandal's worries did not come true after all. After all, the top leaders of those organizations and countries are not fools and can see the international situation clearly. Let's not talk about whether Orb and Plant have united and whether they can compete with them. The emergence of new extraterrestrial life has made them dare not fight internally anymore. The information Wang Liumei disclosed was only a small part, and it was only the video data of the battle record, but the information received by the major forces was much more detailed. Although not all, it was much more detailed than the video data. If it weren't for Yang Hui and Orb, they wouldn't be able to deal with the terrifying existence of Festum, let alone the arrival of the extraterrestrial army, and even the semi-assimilated existence of the Scandinavian kingdom. Let alone dealing with it, they might not know about it until the extraterrestrial army arrived. Therefore, after consultations from all parties, in order to prevent the war from breaking out again, it was decided that all forces would unite and form a joint coalition government, that is, the Earth Federation. Plant was of course included. Although it was impossible to erase the contradictions between natural people and adjusters at once, it was also a huge progress, because since the proposal was made, except for the remnants of Blue Cosmos, other natural people have not opposed it. After all, Zaf and Orb saved the Earth and mankind together. The headquarters of the Earth Federation was built on the site of the old Kingdom of Scandinavia. Although the Kingdom of Scandinavia had suffered a nuclear attack, the technology of the Gundam seed world was still good, especially the technology in environmental transformation and restoration. It took only 1 month to eliminate all the radiation covering the Kingdom of Scandinavia and restore greening. As for the ruins of Scandinavia, they were naturally demolished, knocked down, and cleaned up, and then the headquarters of the Earth Federation was built in all directions. Why choose here? It is to remind everyone what kind of battles have taken place with what kind of creatures in this place, to remind them that there are external threats and not to fight internally. On the other hand, since it is the headquarters of the Earth Federation, it is a headquarters belonging to the whole world. No matter which country or sphere of influence it is placed in, it is easy to be partial or cause dissatisfaction, but the Kingdom of Scandinavia has perished and is a piece of unowned land, which is just right as the headquarters of the Federation. We're here. Looking down at the headquarters of the Earth Federation through the window, the ruins had long disappeared. The scenery was beautiful, full of natural breath, and where the original palace ruins stood a building full of modern style, but also beautiful, that is the headquarters of the Earth Federation. The person who designed this is a talent, it's quite good looking. Yang Hui praised. It's the designer of Orb. Lux said. Really? Let him help us redesign the mansion when we have time. Is it necessary? We won't live there much in the future, right? Wang rolled his eyes. After this meeting, a two-way portal will be set up. By then, they will leave this world. Even if they come back, it will be for vacation or very serious situations. Since they are all leaving, why rebuild? Come back for vacation occasionally. Whatever you want. Seeing Yang Hui's insistence, Wang didn't say anything else. Anyway, the money in this world can't be used in other worlds, and there is too much to spend. Since Yang Hui likes it, let him be happy. Chapter 490, Portal Established, Departure. The First Earth Federation General Assembly ended successfully, with Yang Hui as the speaker, Durandal, Dwayne Halbottom, and the leader of the East Asian Republic as the three vice speakers, and other major forces sent representatives to join as members. Durandal, you did it on purpose, didn't you? Yang Hui was very unhappy now, because Durandal proposed Yang Hui to be the speaker of the First Earth Federation Parliament at the meeting, and then got a unanimous vote. Besides you, who else can be the speaker? Durandal asked Yang Hui as a matter of course. Yang Hui was rarely embarrassed and was choked speechless. The reason why he didn't want to be the speaker was because he couldn't stay in this world forever. He had to return to Promise Fortress and go to other worlds to perform missions. He was not on this world most of the time, and his title of speaker was just a decoration. But just as Durandal said, no one in this world is more qualified than Yang Hui to be the first speaker of the Earth Federation. Yang Hui is a hero who ended the Second Battle of Yakanduvi, exposed the conspiracy of Logos, and the Kingdom of Scandinavia, led people to eliminate the extraterrestrial invaders, and save the Earth and mankind. Except for Yang Hui, anyone who comes to power may be resisted, especially when the contradiction between natural people and adjusters has not been completely resolved. Alice, but I can't stay here to deal with the affairs of the Federation. Yang Hui said helplessly. We will help you with the relevant affairs of the Federation. You just need to come back and show your face after a while. Dwayne Halbottom said, and the leader of the East Asian Republic also nodded in agreement. The true identity of Yang Hui's team and the information of Promise Fortress have been told to these two. First, the Gundam seed world is a stable rear base, and the leaders of the two major forces who are also qualified to become world hegemons should know it. Otherwise, if it is concealed now and discovered at that time, it will cause chaos in this world. Furthermore, Yang Hui really needs the support of these two people. Otherwise, it would be unreasonable for him to be missing for a long time as the speaker. This is the only way. This is also the only way. For the stability of this world, this is the only way. After a period of time, Yang Hui's heroic deeds will gradually fade away. If one of the three people, Durandal, makes more achievements and his reputation is better than Yang Hui, he can hand over the position of speaker. Don't look at me, I will hand over my position too. Durandal saw Yang Hui looking at him and immediately shirked. He and Cruz are the same kind of people. Power is just a tool for them to achieve their goals. At the same time, like Cruz, he is full of yearning and expectations for other worlds, so it is impossible for him to stay in the Gundam seed world forever. There is another very important reason, that is, Talia will also become a member of Promise Fortress. If her lover is gone, why should she stay? I plan to go and see it too. Dwayne Halbottom smiled. Compared with being a politician, Dwayne Halbottom prefers to be a soldier. So, I'm the only one left. The leader of the East Asian Republic pointed at himself helplessly, secretly cursing the two old foxes for being so quick-witted and blocking all his retreats. That's right, the leader of the East Asian Republic also expected and yearned for the existence of Promise Fortress and other worlds, even if he was a pure politician. When a person's horizons are opened, he will find that the things he once pursued are very small and ridiculous. You can just hold on for a while, and hand it over after a few years when you find a suitable candidate. Okay. So, when will it start? As soon as the voice fell, 6 eyes locked on Yang Hui, burning and hot, as if they wanted to swallow Yang Hui. Let's go. Yang Hui shrugged and took the 3 people into the special elevator, descending all the way, and it was unknown how many meters deep they went underground before stopping. You didn't choose Orb? Durandal and the other 2 were surprised. Yang Hui had already told them about the two-way door in advance, and knew how important the two-way door was. Logically, for safety reasons, Yang Hui should choose his base camp to place it. It's true that I built Orb, but what I want is this world. The 3 of them were stunned, and shook their heads with a wry smile. It turned out that their vision was still narrow. This world was already in Yang Hui's pocket, and as the absolute center of the world, the headquarters of the Earth Federation was a better choice. After passing multiple security verifications, The four came to the huge space deep inside, where a complete army could be placed. "Are you here?" Seeing the four people coming, Wang Liumei, Malu, Bakalulu, Setsuna, Lyle, Tiria, Cruz, Kira, Aslan and others who had been waiting here for a long time surrounded them. Including Wang Liumei, Setsuna, Lyle, Tiria. These five were originally members of the Promise Fortress and were very much looking forward to the moment when the two-way portal was established, because it was also their first experience. "Well, let's start. It seems that you can't wait." Yang Hui shrugged, and didn't waste time. He came to the designated location and communicated with Mephis. "Mephis, let's get started. Start building a two-way portal." Under construction, as Mephis's shadow appeared above Yang Hui, with a waving of his hands, dense, large and small blue unknown energy blocks appeared out of thin air, and then gathered together. Not long after, a gate full of technological atmosphere appeared in front of everyone. In the center of the metal gate, there was a mysterious blue vortex, which made people yearn for it, but also made people have a trace of fear of the unknown. The two-way portal has been built, and the time synchronization has been completed. Commander, you can return to Promise Fortress at any time. Thank you for your hard work. Mephis disappeared without any emotional changes. "Let's go, everyone." Yang Hui shrugged at Mephis's ignoring attitude, and then said something to everyone, and then took Wang Liumei, Setsuna, Lyle and Tiria into the vortex, followed by Malu, Bakalulu and Lakis. Watching the figure disappear, they stopped in their tracks with expectation and excitement. This is human nature, fear of the unknown. Haha, I didn't expect that I would be afraid one day. Cruz shook his head in self-mockery, calmed down, and walked into the vortex. Then Kira and Aslan looked at each other and nodded, and took steps at the same time. "Hey! How could I let you get ahead? Get out of my way." The arrogant little white-haired boy was still hesitating, but when he saw Aslan taking action, he pushed Aslan away and stepped into the portal first. "Hey! Isaac!" Diego covered his face with depression. When he arrived at Promise Fortress, he must ask Yang Hui if there is any technology that can cure arrogance. Aslan, who was pushed away, was stunned for a moment, looked at each other with Kira and Diego, and stepped into the portal with a wry smile. With representatives, the subsequent people naturally mustered up their courage and walked in one after another, heading towards an unknown future, a future full of expectations. Chapter 491 Return, New Member. Yang Hui was already familiar with the slight dizziness caused by teleportation. As soon as they closed their eyes, they returned to the Promise Fortress. At the same time, they also saw Graham and other members of the second team returning from the other side. They were a little disappointed because they did not build a portal, but they were happy because there was no loss of personnel. "Welcome back. I'll give you this back." Yang Hui and Graham extended their fists and bumped them. They also hugged and greeted Fleet, Arthur and others. After all, every mission was unknown. Even if the strength of the second team was above B level and they were equipped with the most suitable machines for them, there should be no danger in the Gundam W world. But who can say for sure? Who knows if the Gundam W world will encounter foreigners like Festum like the Gundam Seed world. So for them, every safe return from a mission is worth celebrating. No accidents. No. Except that Graham almost resisted the colony satellite when he was fighting with someone. There were no accidents. Graham was interrupted by Fleet as soon as he opened his mouth. Looking at Graham, his expression was like that of a wronged young wife. "Oh, Adhoha." Graham scratched his head awkwardly when he saw that he was exposed. "Oh? That's not bad, we've encountered quite a bit of trouble here." Yang Hui did not blame Graham. He had confidence in Graham's ability, and also in Fleet and others. He could control Graham's enthusiasm at a critical moment, which was why he was confident in letting Graham team up with Fleet and others. "Huh? With this lineup, can you still run into trouble?" Graham and others were surprised. "You know, the difficulty level of the current mission is not high. With Yang Hui, Setsuna, Lyle, and Tiria, Wang Liumei collects intelligence and helps with logistics, and Wang analyzes intelligence and formulates combat plans. It's a perfect team. Well, let's not talk about this for now. Let's introduce the new members first. The new members are not only the people in the Gundam Seed world, but also 3 unfamiliar faces in the second team. However, I say unfamiliar faces, that's for Wang and others. Yang Hui recognized them at a glance. A nobleman with long blonde hair, a capable and stern Oriental man, and a capable female soldier with short black hair. Who else could this be but Gigas, Yang Hui, and Gigas' fangirl crazy annoying? That's right, it's just a pity that we couldn't connect the world. Fleet was also very sorry. Unlike Yang Hui, they didn't know the direction of the plot development. Although they also obtained a high degree of deflection, they failed to reach 100%, so they couldn't connect to the Gundam W world. As for why only 3 people were brought back, it was not because there were not enough places, but because there were only 3 people who could be favored by them and were willing to come to the Promise Fortress. The 4 Gundam pilots, Hero, Dio, Trova, and Cartel, were unwilling to continue fighting because the goal of peace had been achieved. Tells, a hexagonal warrior who was comparable to Fleet, also wanted to enjoy a peaceful life. Even the 5 Gundam doctors who were supposed to be crazy about unknown technology said that they should retire and did not want to leave their own world. Therefore, only Gigas, who thought the world no longer needed him after achieving his goal, Yang Hui, who was unwilling to give up his identity as a warrior, and Noin, who was willing to follow Gigas for life, followed Graham and others to Promise Fortress. Just do your best, don't force it. Yang Hui was telling the truth. He knew the plot, so he could easily obtain a high degree of world deflection. Therefore, Yang Hui never required other teams to obtain the qualification to connect to the world, and after the intrusion of this festum, everyone's safe return was a good result. Although the new members who had just arrived were full of curiosity about Promise Fortress, they still suppressed their throbbing hearts and followed Yang Hui and others to the central hall. After understanding the basic situation, they followed the guide to visit Promise Fortress. Let's introduce each other first. The first thing was of course to introduce each other. Those who could come to Promise Fortress as soon as the world was connected, or those who used the quota, must be members who are qualified to join the core layer in the future. Everything was fine until Yang Hui introduced Malu, Bakalu and Lakas. The meeting room fell silent. Graham, Fleet and others first locked their eyes on Malu, Bakalu and Lakas, then looked at Yang Hui, then came to Wang and Wang Liumei, and finally, landed on Yulin who was smiling, and then Hula X, and in a uniform pace, Graham and others took a step back, feeling that something terrible was going to happen. The result surprised them. Yulin didn't get angry or sad. Instead, she walked over with a gentle face, took Lakas's hand, and greeted Malu and Bakalu gently. She even had a hint of happiness and relief. I have 3 more sisters-in-law. This is Fleet. I have 3 more aunts. This is Arthur. I have 3 more brothers and sisters. This is Graham. Psyxn was originally in a neat formation, but when it came to Graham, it was booed by everyone. What do you mean? Graham shouted. What about you? What about me? Where's my sister-in-law? Where's my aunt? Where's my wife? Got it. Flag Gundam. X and Graham, PFFT sorry. Athrin, Kira and others couldn't help laughing. They were a little nervous when they first came. After all, they just joined and didn't know what kind of people their future companions would be, and whether they could get along well. But this immediately brought them closer to each other and greatly reduced the gap. Wow. It seems that they are a group of good people. They shouldn't be boring in the future. Cruz raised the corner of his mouth, feeling happy that his future companions were all good and interesting people. If the other party was boring, Cruz could completely ignore them. He followed Yang Hui, not others. As long as Yang Hui still maintained his current charm, he would be enough. Even if Yang Hui became a boring person, he would take the initiative to create some fun to entertain himself. It's just that this process may not be liked by everyone. Okay, the introductions are over. Graham, let's report the situation first. Things on our side are a bit complicated. Seeing that the tense atmosphere had relaxed, Yang Hui also asked everyone to return to the topic. No problem, on our side. Chapter 492, Graham is not suitable for undercover. As Graham narrated, the experience of the second team was roughly understood. Like Yang Hui and others who went to the Gundam Seed world, Graham and others all rejuvenated and grew up from newborn babies. Graham and others were also born in a large family like Yang Hui and others, and their starting point was very high. But the difference is that the world situation in the Gundam W world seems to be more complicated, so Graham and others are almost not in the same force. However, this also makes it easier for them to control various forces and organizations. Here I have to mention a very interesting thing. That is, the father and son, Arthur and Fleet, were born in the same family, and then, they were twin brothers. Arthur was the older brother and Fleet was the younger brother. Funny. When they grew up to 16 to 20 years old, that is when the plot began, 5 Gundams appeared one after another, and Graham and others who had been in a silent state also came on stage one by one. Fleet and Arthur are the core members of the peace faction of the Earth Unification Union. Graham has a close relationship with the commander-in-chief of OZ, tells Kurenida, and Gerhard is the heir to the leader family of the universe people. So, Gundam W has members from the 3 largest forces in the world, and they are all core circle members. Fleet and Gerhard joined forces and almost swept the 3 forces around. There was no secret in their minds. Under such conditions, they could easily complete 100% of the world deflection, but Fleet and Gerhard, as the timing commanders of the second team, were participating in the mission for the first time. For the sake of caution, they did not intervene too much in the development of world history, that is, they saved some insignificant people and prevented some conspiracies in advance. Among them were the armed coup of OZ and the rise of White Fang. The organization of these 2 major events was also the main reason for their ability to obtain a large amount of world deflection. But what they didn't expect was that this approach not only failed to prevent the outbreak of war, but also exposed them, and also let OZ and White Fang unite to deal with them, triggering the final war in another form. Graham is most responsible for the accident of this mission. Fleet criticized harshly. Originally, Graham's mission was to continue to lurk around tells Kurenida as an enemy and monitor OZ's every move when Fleet, Gerhard and others were exposed. Who knew that when trying to stop OZ's armed uprising, Graham accidentally exposed his identity, causing the lurking plan to fail completely and losing control of OZ, so he failed to detect the cooperation between OZ and White Fang in advance. How could I know that Tells was so petty? From the way I looked at Gundam, I knew there was something wrong with me. Speaking of this, Graham was also very depressed. When Gundam first appeared, unlike others, Graham's eyes were too calm, without any ripples, as if he had known about the existence of Gundam for a long time. But this little action was captured by Tells Kurenida. According to his understanding, Graham was a real warrior and a battle maniac. He had already defeated all opponents in OZ at that time. He should be very excited to see the Gundam easily sweeping the OZ army. But he didn't. Therefore, Tells Kurenida abandoned the friendship he had grown up with Graham, and always accompanied Graham while being on guard against him. In the end, when OZ launched an armed coup, Tells Kurenida was sure that Graham was not on the same page with him. Therefore, because he had noticed Graham's problem in advance, although OZ's armed coup failed, it did not suffer too much loss, and it also had the strength to join forces with White Fang to launch a war later. You are still careless, Graham, Yang Hui said seriously. If you make a mistake, you must learn a lesson. Every mission may be a separation of life and death. In order to complete the mission better and for everyone to come back alive, every mistake made in every mission and the defects found must be reminded and corrected in time. Oh, I know. Graham was helpless, but he knew it was his own fault. He scratched his head and admitted, but don't give me an undercover mission next time. I'm really not suitable. Yet, that's true. Everyone nodded in agreement. Graham was an excellent fighter and could become an excellent team leader, but he was really not suitable to be an undercover agent because it was difficult for Graham to hide his true emotions. There's nothing I can do this time. Be careful next time. That's the best. Yang Hui, how about you? What trouble did you encounter? Fleet asked. It was the turn of the first team. Yang Hui and others looked at each other and smiled bitterly, and at the same time felt fortunate. To be honest, although they defeated Festum and completed the mission with a single blow, only they themselves knew the dangers involved. Looking back on it later, they were still scared. What if they didn't discover the problem of the Scandinavian kingdom in time? What if Mentor Malchio didn't hold on until he met Yang Hui? What if the assimilation phenomenon spread in advance? Too many variables could lead to catastrophic consequences. What? You encountered Festum? After listening to Yang Hui's story, Fleet and the others stood up in shock. Yes, no one expected this to happen. Yang Hui smiled bitterly. Memphis. Are you there? I'm here. At Fleet's call, Memphis's shadow appeared. Why did this happen? Promise Fortress cannot create a world. Every mission world is a real world. Since it is a real world, It can be captured by Promise Fortress and naturally can be captured by the enemy. According to the Commander Protection Agreement, according to the Commander's strength and the comprehensive strength of Promise Fortress, the difficulty of the mission world is screened, and the mission world that best suits the current comprehensive strength is selected, but it is not absolute. For example, the Festum in the Gundam seed world has been in an inactive state, so it will not be detected by Promise Fortress. It can only be detected when it starts to move. If it is not assimilated, the inactive Festum will always be hidden in the Gundam seed world. As soon as these words came out, the hair of the first team and the people from the Gundam seed world stood up, and cold sweats ran down their bodies. While they were afraid, they were also grateful that the people in the Kingdom of Scandinavia were studying Festum and triggered the assimilation phenomenon. Otherwise, it was equivalent to a giant nuclear bomb that could destroy the world being buried deep underground. No one knew it existed, but it could explode at any time. What about the Gundam U world and the Gundam Age world? Do such things exist? Yang Hui asked. The Gundam U world was his second home, a world he would definitely go back to and connect to, and the Gundam Age world was a world that had already been connected to the Promise Fortress. If there was also such a time bomb hidden in it, it must be cleared immediately, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. It is impossible to confirm the Gundam U world, but it is certain that there is no such time bomb in the Gundam Age world. After connecting the two-way portal, the world and the Promise Fortress have become one entity. The fortress's warning system will cover the connected world. As long as it exists, it will be exposed. Can't we give an early warning? Before we go to the mission world? Yang Hui asked. Discovering in advance and informing in the middle are two completely different situations. Yang Hui and his team were able to escape danger this time because they had the right time, right place, and right people on their side. Yes, but the authority is insufficient. To upgrade the central hall? How many levels are required? Insufficient authority. Everyone was emo. It was the damn authority again. What should we do? Go all out to attack the authority this time? Graham asked. No. XN not only Yang Hui, Wang Liumi, Fleet, Gerhardt, even Cruz and Durandal opposed Graham's point of view. Authority is very important, but we can't be impatient. Yang Hui said. Why? Because of strength? Wang said. Strength. That's right, strength. The level of the central hall is not only closely related to the authority, but also closely related to the difficulty of the mission level. With their current strength, no matter how we group them, as long as we don't encounter a small probability of accident, we can easily get through it. Easily getting through it means that we have more opportunities to get more rewards and a higher degree of world deflection. Fleet explained. That's right, but the situation will be very different when the difficulty goes up. Gerhardt added, we don't know the extent of the increase in mission difficulty. Once the difficulty goes up too much, not only will we be unable to complete the mission, but our lives may even be in danger. I see, but didn't Yang Hui and the others encounter an unexpected situation this time? This is a low probability event after all. The probability of encountering it is very small. And just like the situation in the Gundam seed world, although it is very dangerous, it is not a dead end. There is still a lot of room for maneuver. But compared to the increase in difficulty, what we may encounter is not an accident, but a real army. What do you think? Are we qualified to face that kind of enemy army now? Upon hearing this, everyone shook their heads in unison. Even a battle fanatic like Graham who craves for strength is not a fool. They like battles between life and death, but that doesn't mean they are willing to die. And Fleet thought for a moment and looked at Yang Hui. Accidents often represent opportunities. I think we've gained a lot this time, right? Hearing this, Yang Hui and other members of the first team smiled at each other. Fleet was right. Accidents represent opportunities. More difficult tasks mean more rewards. That's right. Now let's summarize all the rewards. This time, our improvement will definitely not be small. Chapter 493 Harvest, Upgrade, Change, Decision. The first team received all the rewards from the Gundam seed world as follows. 5 build opportunities, 6 reinforcement opportunities, 11 skill extraction opportunities, 11 skill reinforcement opportunities, 1 small supply package, 5 extra large supply packages. The second team received the following rewards from the Gundam W world. 5 build opportunities, 3 reinforcement opportunities, 5 skill extraction opportunities, 4 skill reinforcement opportunities, 3 small supply packages. Total: 10 build opportunities, 9 reinforcement opportunities, 16 skill extraction opportunities, 15 skill reinforcement opportunities, 3 small supply packages, 1 small supply package, 5 extra large supply packages. Fleet's guess was verified. This time the harvest was very large, especially the 5 extra large supply packages. From the previous supply packages, we can roughly estimate how much supplies a large supply package will provide. For the Promise Fortress, which is in urgent need of supplies, it is simply a timely help. Apart from anything else, if the estimated value is good, the original solar furnace technology that everyone wants to unlock the most can be unlocked. The construction opportunity and the enhancement opportunity can be said to be quite standard, but it also exceeded expectations, giving them more choices. The largest number of skill extraction opportunities also include skill enhancement opportunities, which is the icing on the cake. The role of skills has become smaller and smaller as the strength increases, and Mephis, can I use the skill enhancement opportunity to improve my driving skills to Class A? No, why? Isn't driving skills a kind of skill? The driving skills from Class B to Class A are an essential leap. To put it bluntly, it is a transformation of the essence of life. Every Class A pilot not only has driving skills that meet Class A, but also has other requirements. What requirements? Bloodline, talent, bloodline and talent. Yes, for example, the transformer owned by the commander is a kind of bloodline, but it is not enough to have the bloodline, but also to develop the bloodline to the level that meets Class A. Wait, why don't I know that bloodlines have levels? It's not displayed on the attribute panel. Insufficient authority. What about talent? Well, damn authority dog. When every pilot reaches the critical point of B level, there will be a chance to awaken talent. The awakened talent will be determined by many factors such as each person's driving habits, personality, and style of behavior. Therefore, the awakened talent of each pilot will be different. The commander is now at the critical point of B level, and what is lacking is the awakening of talent. So my driving skills and bloodline have met the requirements. Yes. This is the first time that Yang Hui saw the fluctuation of expression on Mephis's face. Although it was just a slight twitch at the corner of his eye, he still caught it. This made him realize that Mephis might not be just pure artificial intelligence as he imagined. However, with Mephis style, asking directly will not get you anything. If you try, there is no need. No matter what Mephis's true face is, they are their companions. He will not use such means on his companions. Moreover, Yang Hui believes that as they become stronger step by step and have higher and higher authority, they will naturally know Mephis's true face. What about S-Class? The conditions for the advancement of A-Class are clear. To be honest, the transformation of the essence of life really surprised Yang Hui. Then what about the highest level S? What kind of existence will it be? Insufficient authority. Well, the expected answer. In other words, all upgradable skills, except driving skills, can be used to upgrade. Yes. Got it, thank you. Mephis was silent for a second, and then disappeared. However, before disappearing, Yang Hui did see that the phantom's face blushed slightly. This is not Yang Hui testing. It was really just a subconscious thank you, but he didn't expect to bring him another surprise. The rest is the time for the decision-making group. Yang Hui, Wang Liumei, Flit, Gerhardt, Argelis who came from the Gundam Age world, and the newly joined crews, Durandal and others began to discuss how to use the construction opportunities and enhancement opportunities. It took about an hour to discuss the event, and finally decided to stick to the cautious route, upgrading the central hall only once, and leaving the remaining construction opportunities and enhancement opportunities to other places. Promise Fortress is the real base camp. Now the base camp is still in a damaged state. Even if you want to impact higher authority, you need to lay a good foundation first. For example, what if the scientific research area and the production area are upgraded? Higher level technology requires more materials to unlock and more materials to produce. The two mining areas bring a few melons and dates. Taking the solar furnace as a reference, it is estimated that only a few screws can be produced. Therefore, it is necessary to increase the investment in the mining area. It took 4 construction opportunities to rebuild 4 mining areas, and at the same time spent 4 reinforcement opportunities to upgrade the newly built 4 mining areas to LV2, with a total of 6 LV, 2 mining areas. Then the research institute was upgraded twice to LV5. The production area was upgraded 3 times to LV4. 2 residential areas, 1 trading area, 1 military area, and 1 port were newly built. The current situation of Promise Fortress is as follows: Central Hall, unique. LV3 Research Institute, unique. LV5 Production Area, unique. LV4 Mining Area X6, LV2 Residential Area X3, LV1 Entertainment Area X1, LV1 Trading Area X1, LV1 Military Area X1, LV1 Port X0, X1, LV1. The level of the Central Hall is upgraded, the authority is upgraded to LV1, the team function is opened, the number of direct teams is increased by 1, and the random selection of team members is cancelled. The commander can form 3 teams to go to 3 worlds to perform mandatory tasks respectively. The upper limit of each team is 10 people. The task world rules are changed to randomly select 2 worlds, and the 3 teams have the right to distribute 3 worlds. Side quests are open, and the restricted task function is open. The vigorous upgrade of the Research Institute and the production area is also necessary. Even if there are not enough materials for unlocking and production now, knowing what new technology a higher level Research Institute can bring can better plan the road ahead. The reason for choosing to build 2 residential areas is that the Gundam seed world has brought a large number of fixed populations, and 1 residential area is no longer enough. The trading area is because the 2 worlds are connected, and the trade framework between the worlds can be built. The last military area and port have no effect on the current Promise Fortress, but as the last 2 areas that have not been touched, Cruz suggested taking advantage of the opportunity of sufficient rewards to build 1 each. Even if it is of no use, it can help them understand the intelligence of the 2 areas and advance. It must be said that this decision is wise, because the 2 newly emerged areas have brought them a lot of intelligence and speculation. For example, the military area, which can also be called the armed area, the defense area. In addition to being able to station permanent troops, there are more fortress defense facilities, beam cannons, missile launchers, stand shields, etc. This is just a foundation. There are still various dark technologies that have not been unlocked. The unlocking of these technologies also needs to be carried out in the Research Institute. There is no need to produce them separately in the production area. Just click to build them in the military area. The port is a place to berth the fleet. It is still small now, with only a few berths, but with the upgrade, the scale will definitely be able to accommodate countless fleets. The emergence of military zones and ports made them guess that in the future, when the level of the Central Hall is raised and the authority is getting higher and higher, they may not only need to go to the mission world to perform tasks, but may also enter the void with Promise Fortress as the core to carry out various battles, and the targets must be the enemies recorded in the database. Fortunately, there is no rush. Yang Hui and others are also grateful that they did not rush directly because of their hot-headedness. Otherwise, with their current strength, they really can't deal with the incoming enemies. What? Why guess? Instead of asking Memphis directly? As always, the answer is insufficient authority. However, as the Research Institute reached LV5, they obtained another very important intelligence, that is, after the Research Institute was upgraded to LV5, it could not be upgraded further. The Central Hall also needs to be upgraded to LV5, and then it can be upgraded further. It seems that level 5 is a hurdle. After the advancement, it will be elite for us and Promise Fortress. Wong said. The danger is equal. I feel that this hurdle. If we are not prepared, we may encounter an unprecedented crisis. Yang Hui said. Of course. In the information you provided, isn't there a distinction between the real system and the super system? In a very short time, Cruz and Durandal had roughly browsed the information in the database. Otherwise, they would not have been able to join the decision-making group for discussion without knowing anything. In addition to the intelligence of enemies such as Festum, which was carefully looked at, there was the so-called super system. Yang Hui recorded some information about the super system according to his memory. To be honest, Festum belongs to the super system, and it is definitely a top-level super system. There are other super systems, such as giant lightsabers with sufficient energy that can split the Milky Way with one sword, machines that can use various superpowers, and output power that can be increased without limit as the roar increases, and even magic and time stop. What kind of monsters are these? Can science really explain it clearly? Well, we are now in the real system, and the super system. If I am not mistaken, after advancing, we should start to encounter the existence of the super system. But we won't face the top right away. It should be a low difficulty world that is not completely beyond a real system, but involves the super system. Wong guessed. But even so, it is definitely less difficult than the task we are facing now. So, we must not rush now. The world of the super system is very mysterious. It is possible that a task may seem very simple, but suddenly something unexpected happens and the difficulty of the task increases. Yes, if we use a game to describe it, we are now in the novice protection period. The foundation is very important. Only by laying a solid foundation can we go further in the future. And there are two new functions, side quests and restricted quests. It seems that as the permissions are opened, there will be more channels to obtain rewards, right? Miss Mavis. Chapter 494, The Pride That Was Blown. Yes, after selecting the mission world, you can choose whether to add restrictions to the restricted mission. After adding restrictions, you will get extra rewards for completing the mission. The branch missions are randomly triggered after entering the mission world. You can get rewards after completing them. The degree of reward is related to the difficulty of the triggered mission. Sure enough. Everyone's mouth curled up. This is good news for them. Although it is safe now, the low difficulty means less rewards. Everyone is naturally happy to get more rewards in a safe environment. Memphis, what are the restrictions? Random, attribute restrictions, not allowed to carry Promise Fortresses aircraft and warships. Is it true that the more stringent the restrictions, the higher the rewards will be? Yes, restricted missions are not chosen casually. Wong said seriously. The restrictions will still seriously weaken their strength. The aircraft and warships are easy to deal with. After all, each world has its own technological route, and there will always be suitable aircraft and warships for them to use. But if the attributes are reduced, even Yang Hui can hardly guarantee that he can easily deal with all battles, let alone others. Let's make a choice based on the selected mission world. Yang Hui decided. At present, the mission worlds they will encounter are all real worlds. Although the level of the real world is not as terrifying as the super world, it is not small. For example, the UC world, the story continues to more than 200 years after the UC. If they are facing a world like Gundam V, it is still very dangerous to have their attributes restricted. Not to mention that far away, the Unicorn period in 96 is also very dangerous. After all, Unicorn, to a certain extent, has already belonged to the category of super system. But if it is the 1-year war, it is simple. Even if the attribute is suppressed to sea level, there is no need to be afraid. What? You said that the 1-year war is the most chaotic and dangerous period? That's right, but the chaos of the 1-year war is more reflected in struggles, politics, assassinations, etc., and the 1-year war is the period when Miss has just emerged. Even if Yang Hui makes a bunch of M1 heretics, he can easily deal with Zaku and Jim and ensure that he survives in large-scale battles. What? There are also flashlights and snake cannons? Please, if this kind of weapon is detected in advance, it will not be such a big threat, right? Then it's decided. Everyone nodded and agreed to Yang Hui's proposal. They would not refuse the increase in mission rewards. As long as safety is guaranteed, they must not give up the restricted mission. Next, it was time for a pleasant visit. Cruz and other newcomers from the Gundam Seed world, as well as Jigas, Zhang Wufi and Noin, 3 newcomers from the Gundam W world, first had to get to know their new home. How is it? When they came to the simulation training room, Yang Hui saw that everyone was engaged in a simulated battle in full swing. On the one hand, they were familiar with their future comrades, and on the other hand, they were competing with each other. They were all trump cards from different worlds, and they naturally had to compete for a face when they met for the first time. Damn bastard. Before Graham answered, Yang Hui heard a familiar voice. He looked over and saw Isaac jumping out of the simulation cabin in a rage, but his face was a little pale. It should be that the real simulated death ending made him a little slow to recover for a while. On the other side, Arthur walked out of the simulation cabin with a smug look on his face. He looked very relaxed. The battle with Isaac did not make him feel tired at all. As you can see. Graham shrugged. The faces of the newcomers were not very good, while the old ones were very relaxed. Yang Hui shrugged. He was not surprised by this result. After all, The old people like Arthur were the aces of the original world. After several years or even more than 10 years of experience in another world, it would be strange if they did not grow. Moreover, the machines used by the old people were specially configured for them by Yang Hui and other scientific research teams to give full play to their full strength. They were the crystallization of the technology of the two worlds of Gundam and Gundam Age, and they were definitely not comparable to the technology of a single world. Even the pilots who did not go to the mission world to perform missions also had their own special machines. They grew very fast under the improvement of real simulation. They were all aces, and the foundation and potential of aces would not be bad. Damn it! If it weren't for the machine dragging its feet. Isaac continued to complain indignantly. Forget it, Isaac, even if it's the same machine, you are no match for him. Diego patted Isaac's shoulder and comforted him. Although he was very frustrated, it was a fact that the opponent's strength was indeed above theirs. And he didn't want Isaac's character to make the relationship between the two sides awkward. After all, they were partners who would fight side by side in the future. What did you say? How about I play another game with you? I'll use the machine data before Promise Fortress. Arthur came over and said proudly. It stands to reason that Arthur is now mature and will not use such a clumsy method to insult the other party, but Arthur is also a person who has led a team. It can be seen that the pride of Isaac and others is a bit too much. It is necessary to strike them appropriately to let them know that there are always people outside the sky. So Yang Hui and others saw that the atmosphere began to spread with gunpowder and the conflict between the two sides was about to break out, but they did not stop it. They thought Arthur was right. Are you looking down on me? A little bit. To be honest, I don't know why you think you have the ability to beat us. Isem spread his hands with a helpless expression. I know that those who can follow Uncle Yang Hui to become the first batch of visitors to the fortress must be elite aces. You. At this time, Isaac felt that the 4 words elite aces in Isem's mouth were particularly harsh. If Diego and Aslan hadn't held him tightly, he would have rushed up to fight with Isem. But even a gentle person like Aslan had an ugly expression for a while. But, aren't we? Hearing this, Isaac and other newcomers were stunned. We are also the top aces in our world. Arthur pointed at Wolf, Gerard, Rena, Dalfrost and others behind him with a serious expression. Except for Uncle Yang Hui, Uncle Graham, Dad and a few others, the people present here have at least decades of combat experience in the original world. Do you have any? Then, some of us went to the mission world to perform missions for more than 10 years. Those who didn't go are also constantly improving themselves in the fortress. You who are new here, why do you think we are just second-rate pilots relying on the advantages of our machines? Isaac and others were completely silent, and their expressions became lonely. Arthur and others shook their heads and turned around to continue training in the simulation cabin. Those who have experienced the mission world know the dangers of performing missions, and those who have not been there are also attacking the team members. For them, it is a matter of sailing against a current. If you don't advance, you will retreat. Whether it is for the quota to go to the mission world or to complete the mission alive and return, you can't stop. Hey. At this time, Isaac called Arthur. What's the matter? Arthur paused and turned around. You, what's your name? Arthur Asuno. Isaac Jewel, I will definitely defeat you. Arthur was stunned for a moment, then smiled with interest. I'll wait for you. Los disappeared, contempt and disdain also disappeared, there was only the blazing flames of war burning, both sides looked at each other with burning eyes, and the high-spirited drums of war had been beaten. The effect is not bad. Yang Hui smiled, very satisfied with the result this time. It seems that I won't be bored in the future, they are all good people. Fleet said, and Jethur nodded in agreement. Not only the newcomers from the Gundam Seed world are unfamiliar with the Promise Fortress, but the old people are also unfamiliar with the newcomers. It is necessary to get familiar with and understand each other. The frustration and suppression just now undoubtedly shortened this process. Are you doubting my vision? Yang Hui glanced at Fleet. No. There is no way. Facts have proved that brothers are always brothers. Even if they are not brothers, there is blood suppression. But, Isem has really grown up. Isem's actions just now were necessary and just right. One less point would not achieve the effect, and one more point might really cause hostility between the two sides. Of course, I have been disciplining him for the past 10 years. Brother disciplining brother. Let's not talk about this, we are still good brothers. Ho ha ho ha. I care more about the person who called you uncle. So you are so old. At this time, Cruz asked his doubts and successfully transferred his firepower to Yang Hui. Huh? XN. Not only Cruz was curious, but also Durandal, Kara, Aslan, Isaac and others were very concerned, so Isaac and others quietly huddled aside and pricked up their ears, waiting for the answer. Do you know how long Graham and I have been in the Gundam Age world? Speaking of the experience in the Gundam Age world, Yang Hui was helpless and depressed, and he almost collapsed. How long? Nearly 100 years. Graham smiled bitterly. What? XN. The world of Gundam Age is a wonder among wonders. The entire historical process is about the history of the 3 generations of Asuno, so, although he didn't finish, everyone still focused their attention on Fleet, then looked in the direction of Arthur, and finally looked again, and found that there was no one who looked like the father and son. Don't look for it. Chio didn't come to Promise Fortress. Fleet said. From the way they looked, it was clear that they were looking for the 3rd generation. Huh? XN. This is still an interesting thing. Cruz raised the corner of his mouth, thinking it was interesting, but he didn't delve into it. Since he didn't come to Promise Fortress, then this was the family affair of the Asuno family, and asking too much would be rude. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.